is up, everyone, and welcome to tonight's Midnight Ranting. Oh, what's the best evidence for biological evolution? Where tonight we are having a after party for the
victory
debate
celebration
of Kent Hovind versus our very own Reid from the channel Standing for Truth on the topic, what's the best evidence for biological evolution? So won't you join James W., myself, Amy Newman, and our special guest host, Mark Reid, for a biologically good time. Oh my.
Try Sinister. We're going to try though.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. That I'm not sure it'll be a biologically good time as sex with Jesus, but we will make a really good effort.
We'll give it our all.
Absolutely.
Listen, I know that my yoga teacher Jesus loves me over and over and over.
She loves him.
Exactly, along with Gavin. And that's right, everyone. Welcome on the interwebs. Pew, pew, pew. I see so many fantastic people out there. I see James Wolfe and Desil Trace and even Ian Davenport, KCA Randy, Immutable Destiny, Dave Gar. So many fantastic. Luca. What is up, Luca? Mwah. Computer. Oh my God. Randy. Our computer is talking back to us. It's amazing. Woohoo! Sending so much love. And that's right. They are here because they were able to get reminders by being able to hit like, follow, or subscribe. And then hitting that all button icon, which was able to send reminders to see our premieres or join our live streams. What is up, interwebs? What is up, Materialist Dan and Scott Duke? Woohoo!
Roger Shrum.
And that is right, Roger Shrum.
All our buddies.
And okay, it is true. Admittedly, there are 3 skeptic schmucks that you see before you.
3 atheists.
It happens. Atheists. The A word. It's however, after our opening statements and the Sam Harris is going to have a little housekeeping, we will be opening up the floodgates, or rather the open mic, so you can say your mind about the debate, the topic. I normally say tacos. Everything has to become political. Tacos will be opening up. Somebody would say they're all. We'll also give anyone Sex with God margaritas. We'll also give anyone the chance to say anything they want, atheist or theist, liberal or conservative, come as you are, just not on our sheets. And we have standards.
That's right.
Try to make popcorn.
And can I point out the worst atheists of all, the AAs, the Aussie atheists, like Ian Davenport and James Wolfe? We're the worst. We're heretical in a weird accent. It's got to be the worst ever.
And it's like living proof that the
like
flat
Ned
Earth
Kelly meets Richard Dawkins.
Say that again.
I said like Ned Kelly meets Richard Dawkins.
Yeah. Terrible.
Wow.
Speaking of Oz's, this a different type of Oz. This fantastic, lovely content is sponsored by all of our channel members, who you can find in the description below, and our Patreons, who you can find at patreon.com/Amy Newman, including wonderful people like It was a long reach, ladies and gentlemen, but Oz!
Dang, James.
Woo, from the Atheist Network Group and Tangang Yo, because they host many fantastic non-believers, and I myself do a stream on there with student Dr. Ben, with Uncle Beck, Jigay Jesus, so many wonderful people. You should check it out once a month, as well as the amazing Queen of Production, Jena, as well as Ian Davenport, who we see back there in chat. What is up, Ian?
Once a month. And that's about when Amy menstruates.
Mhm.
Yes.
I was just about to say, yeah.
Yeah, when she menstruates.
You get some monthly Amy.
You get a little bit of and
and you were on Randolph's stream recently. I saw.
I
was. Yeah,
and it was as good as I hoped it would be.
Nice.
Lots of QQing from the theist side, but it was fun. And
it was so late my time. I really wanted to hang around, but it was like 1 a.m. I'm like, I can't do this.
Well, the fun thing about it is they actually do go on for a little while. It's don't blame you for getting tucked in and maybe falling asleep, but it was a lot of fun. You should all go to youtube.com/Randolph Richardson. That's with an LF, even if your spell check says otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Google.
The
Godfather.
Godfather of atheism. But also
I'm
Ian
make you a syllogism you cannot refuse.
Oh my. I do say I get very enticed by a hot syllogism. But Ian is also the topic of tonight because we take a look at why creationist talking points are so bad. And oh boy, did we get a lot of bad creationist
talking points, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think Kent's the master of bad talking points. I mean,
if he's stuffed... No, go finish here.
Oh, well, I've said before, we love it when they wheel him out because he is just so bad. So many people get deconverted from watching his shtick that, he's really good for the atheists, in my opinion. It's fantastic.
And can we just point out that it's funny that he has a shtick? I keep on telling James, the audience, he should become a comedian. Like Ken, quit.
It's almost a parody. It's almost a parody of creationists, really. It's actually quite hilarious.
Well, and here's the thing. He definitely has to know that he's full of shit. Like, there are some things that he says that I just... monkey always gives birth to a monkey. We're not going to see any other monkeys. It's like...
You think you came from an amoeba?
Oh, I mean, that's on my list. Let me just say... Look. I mean, it says it. Amoeba. Turn into. I can't help myself because they can't help themselves. I mean, what is with this whole thing about amoebas?
If he stuffed any straw into that straw man he was building, it would have collapsed into a singularity, and we would have proved the Big Bang.
Well, he's been told before. I think personally. I mean, you can't. I don't think you can tell 100% whether somebody is willfully or accidentally ignorant. But he's been told this so many times by so many different people. And I think personally that he knows it's bullshit. He knows it's a straw man argument. But the thing is, it still gets him a bit of traction with some of his followers. So that's why he still says it. And I mean, at the end of the day, all it is an argument from incredulity. That's all it is. You're incredulous that this can happen, therefore it can't happen. It's a very well-known fallacy, and it's a fallacy for a reason because the logic just doesn't follow.
Right. And we admit that evolution, there are things about it that are not intuitive, that it does seem, and like even now Darwin pointed out, how it seems absurd to think that the eye could evolve slowly over time, but he pointed out how it could have happened.
I can't believe that he brought up the quote mine from Darwin as being a point in his favor, where Darwin says it seems absurd for the eye to evolve over time, but then goes on to point out in the very next sentence, it seems absurd, but some things are counterintuitive. It seems absurd that the Earth is going around the sun, but that is the truth. So there's a lot of things which seem absurd or seem to be things that you go, oh, that can't possibly be the case. But in actual fact, when you analyze them, yes, that is the case.
And that's why we have the scientific method, because it is designed to filter out our biases, our preconceived notions and ideas about what's happening, so we can get to see what's actually the truth, what's really happening. And
well said, James.
The best we have.
Well said. Yeah, absolutely. And it's filtering out these biases that we have to do, because if you just believe things for your intuition or your gut feeling, you can do that, but it's not a reliable way to show what's true and what's not. I mean, if you think, I'm going to use a real simple example here. I mean, it's not the scientific method, but it's an example of two ways about doing things. If you're crossing a road, you can either say, hey, intuitively, and, there's rarely any traffic, and, I haven't seen a car today, I'm just going to cross without any gathering of evidence whatsoever. And that is, you might say, hey, that might be a good way to do things, but you're going to end up dead eventually. It's not reliable. It doesn't work all the time. Whereas if you stop and gather evidence, you look down the road, you listen for cars. That's why we teach children that. It's because that is reliable. And sort of the method of what seems absurd is not reliable, because there's plenty of things that have seemed absurd that are in fact true, like the Earth going round the sun.
The Earth
and
being
can
round.
I just point out that is a purposeful, it's like second tier clickbait, because what a scientist sometimes does is they say something dramatic in order to gain attention, just like you were saying. It may seem absurd that we are floating on a ball that is hovering around a hydrogen ball. However, and then they explain the science. What a flat earther will do is they will cut out that one point and they say, look, scientist says it is absurd that we are floating through the space. And so
then, hey,
that
look around. Looks flat to me, right?
It would be absurd, yeah.
And that is exactly what they do when they quote Richard Dawkins, Stephen Jay Gould, Darwin on why evolution isn't real. You're like, really? Yeah,
Stephen Jay Gould is one of the most misquoted people in the history of humanity, I think, because he has said a lot and is solidly on the side of evolution. And everything they present makes it seem like he doesn't believe it for a second.
Like he's a creationist. Right.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I guess if we're going to go on to talk about Kent, and I think I did well. I think I did really well. But then again, every debate, you always think you did well, or, I think there was some places that I could pin him down a bit more. I think I could have done a lot better. I didn't address as many.
But continue.
Oh yeah, like the grey fox, like Ken. But there were so many things in his opening. It was a litany of different stuff. Now, just to give you some background, and I mentioned this during the debate because I'm not shy about calling out bullshit, right? If somebody does something that is absolutely wrong, I will point it out in the middle of the debate. I have no shame in doing so. If you don't want me to point it out, don't do what you're doing in the first place. He agreed at the start of the debate, in front of the debate, because he brought up, I didn't bring this up, he brought up, these evolutionists bring up 2 or 3 or 4 or 50 topics and I can't address all of them. So I was like, okay, I've got one area of debate, which is genetics, and I've got 3 topics that I want to go through, subtopics of that one major area, and that's all I'll do. I'll be good. I won't bring up anything else. And Donnie said, is 2 or 3 okay? And he's like, yeah, all right, I'll allow it. And I'm like, yes, but I want exactly the same to be done on the other side. Can we agree on that? And of course, it was agreed to. Donnie said, yep, that's what will happen. It'll only be 2 to 3 topics. we get into the debate. I go through my 2 to 3 topics. So I had 3. I had the genetic diversity, I had chromosome 2 fusion, and I had ERVs, or human ERVs, HERVs to be more endogenous retroviruses. Now, the thing that really annoyed me is he didn't even wait until the debate. He did that. He brought up 20 to 30 topics in his introduction, which was for somebody to complain about me doing it, watch me bring up 2 or 3 topics and then do it himself. The level of dishonesty that man is generating is incredible. And I wish I'd gotten to more of his topic things, because there's no way I can address all of that. And I couldn't. I basically brought up one, then he gish galloped and brought up more and more and more. And then this guy had the temerity to turn around and accuse me of gish galloping. It was surreal. Anyway, I wanted to get that off my chest. It was annoying me, but I don't know. It was.
He does it every debate, but this really encapsulated it, because you really tried hard to keep your remarks very focused, and he just did what he does every debate. He brings up whatever he wants to bring up.
I think you were prepared for it, which I think one of Kent's advantage is of his rhetoric, because when you don't have facts, what you do is you say stupid things confidently. And so I think when you have good answers to a lot of his talking points, you can kind of push back. I think it was, look, I don't expect anyone to answer a lot of your opponent's points. In your opening, a lot of them are pre-prepared. And so I understand why Kent may not have responded to some of your points at the beginning, but at a certain point, it's clear that, like, when you ask about genetics, when you're asking about the differences in the diversity of life or anatomy, that he just doesn't answer you. He didn't have any responses to any of the things.
It was 2 or 3 times where Mark pointed out to him, Kent, are you going to address ERVs or chromosome 2 fusion? Are you going to 2 or 3 times? And he just flat out said, no, I am not going to address those topics. We can have a separate debate about it, or Donnie wrote a book about it.
Donnie wrote a book. That was
I'm not going to address those topics. Wow.
Yeah.
And I will say, this is our obligatory sending love for Standing for Truth. We're happy that he's hosting debates. We like
absolutely
all of our theist brothers and sisters. Oh no, I mean, you put these opponents in the ring and you let the ideas stand or fall. But that being said, it looked like, Mark, something was on the tip of your tongue. I'm gonna let any jokes aside from that go and give it back.
Someone's always on the tip of my tongue. Okay. Look, it's not Donnie's fault. Kent lied to him as well when he agreed to the format and the topic limitation up front. He lied as well. So, none of it's Donnie's fault. I think he has a lot of traffic given to him by Kent, and, he simply has to cave to Kent's stuff probably all the time. I probably wouldn't. Even if that meant a lot of views for me or a lot of traffic for me, I probably wouldn't, be under the thumb of somebody. But if he's going to do that, that's fine. So don't hassle Donnie about it. Hassle Kent all you want, because Kent deserves it, quite frankly. But he didn't address any of my points. He didn't address anything that I brought up at all. Even direct questions, he didn't address them in the slightest. Like, he would just dodge away. He didn't answer any of the audience questions. He didn't answer any questions. He just went through. And here's where that fails you. If you're going through the same talking points again and again, someone will do what I did. I knew what talking points he was going to bring up ahead of time, because he goes through the same talking points all the time. And I could tell from his presentation he'd watched a previous debate of mine and had answers for that debate. The problem is that I'd written something completely new. I wasn't doing the same debate as last time.
Right.
So, he was kind of caught out there. And that's what happens when you can't,
Well, can we talk about that? In fact, well, first of all, I do want to say when we hear these creationist claims, it makes us and a grumpy old Cuss complete
grumpy old Cuss
sending so much love. But can we talk about how he takes this like hosh posh approach? Like he tries really, really hard for it not to be biological evolution. It's got to be his 6-step plan, like it's a weight loss protein.
So
you need what's going to evolve? You need matter, you need energy, you need time, space, you need all that.
So
you don't have an answer for that.
So knowing that he basically, and he in a way he's right that there are multiple types of evolution, like stellar evolution and things like that. He's not 100% wrong, but he's kind of being dishonest, because when we talk about evolution in common parlance, or even in the sort of the field of biology, we're understanding it to mean biological evolution. We understand that. We're not talking about cosmological evolution. Right. But he sort of leverages it, so he just brings all these other things into what should be a discussion about biological evolution. And that's why I made sure to say to Donnie when he offered me this debate, it has to be biological evolution. I'm not doing any other evolution, because I know what Ket's going to... And he even still managed to get it into the debate. I mean, the amount of topics that he brought up, which was completely and utterly unrelated to biological evolution, is just incredible. I think he called it organic evolution, which I've never heard anybody refer to it.
Well, can I also say they can just make up whatever terms they want? He could be like, well, there was like 40,000 kinds. Really? Who says that? Can you show me a paper with the word kinds in it?
Right.
And I think that the one of the best lines of the debate was when Mark asked Kent, okay, Kent, give me an experiment that we could do to confirm creation. Yep. What could we do in the laboratory that would demonstrate it? And he had to say nothing. There's nothing you could do, because it's not falsifiable, because it's designed to be unfalsifiable. They don't want you to falsify it, so you can't. Go figure.
Yeah. They don't want to put it up for experimentation and testing. They don't want it to be questioned. And if that's what you're doing, that's fine. But in no way is it any kind of science if you can't do that. So I guess the example I was trying to get across was, and this came to me last night, actually, I was thinking about it. And I thought, what could you, if you put students in a classroom, could you, what experimentation could you give them? Like with evolution, we can do yeast and we can do bacteria and we can do all kinds of different experiments. You may disagree whether that addresses evolution, but it is experiments that we can do, right? Bees and moths and mayflies have a really short life, so we can do stuff like that. What can you do with intelligent design as far as experiments, like practical experimentation? And I could not for the life of me think of a single experiment with any independent and dependent variables or any kind of experiment.
Mark, can I ask you, who does that sound like?
Who does what sound like? What?
Having no model, just no way to have a test. Think of something really flat like a pancake. Something earthy, flurfy.
Yeah, it does sound a little bit wafery and pancake-like. Yeah, it's a pancake thinking. Yeah, that is true. But the problem with flat earthers is they do tests that they come up with that aren't half bad in some cases. They just ignore the results when it fails their test. That when it falsifies their let's call it a model or their hypothesis. Yeah, they just ignore it. Like on I think it was Behind the Curve. Well, Behind the Curve, they said if the Earth's spinning, then it should have a 15 degree per hour rotational drift, and then they got a ring laser gyroscope.
Gyroscope, yeah.
I just want to point out that Soros does support everything you just said, so we are allowed to move forward.
Excellent. I've had the Soros stamp of approval
Exactly.
down there.
But also sending love, we have Luca saying, "Damn, now I need to resist a little. I can see the sun. I can tell you that. Woohoo!
Woohoo!
I can see the sun. I almost got the sun doll. I have my little Earth and Moon there for when I need to take pot shots now at flat earthers and then Muslims. But I love you, Muslims. I love you. I love everybody.
And I thought it was very appropriate when Mark slapped down when he started comparing evolution to Hitler or Stalin.
Oh my goddess.
That was very glad that you smacked that down and like Godwin's law struck.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Godwin's law, isn't it? For those unfamiliar, Godwin's law is basically the longer an argument or conversation goes on for, you approach the probability of 1, i.e. 100%, that somebody will be compared to the Nazis or Hitler. That's Godwin's law. So on an unlimited conversation, there is 100% chance someone's...
It will come up.
Yeah, absolutely. And in this case, it was the atheist. Like, nobody ever thinks that we should have natural selection as a basis for government.
Pure social Darwinism.
Yeah, it's social Darwinism.
Well, also, it misunderstands what survival of the fittest is, and the eugenicists were just subjectively picking what they just thought was the best and just going that way, because it could be the artsy fartsy people that they were killing. We kind of like those people.
So my best example of someone like Stephen Hawking's, you may look at him and say, hey, he's got disabilities, he's not very good for
our drain on society.
Drain on society, etc., etc. He's terrible. But in actual fact, he moved forward our understanding of physics by immense amounts. He was actually
But it turns out we now know that the most densest objects that we know of in the universe will one day evaporate. We know it because of him.
Black holes.
Black holes.
Walking radiation.
Sun. Won't you come?
Yeah.
Thanks, Aaron Coalson.
Permission. Woohoo! Sending so much
Aaron.
love to Aaron Coalson. Sending all the love, and we are sending the love right back to you. We are skeptic and ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution, and we're sending love with Aaron and Mark Reid. Woo-hoo!
Thanks, Aaron. Also, the other thing I want to point out is that this whole thing of, if you believe in natural selection, then you've got to kill off X, Y, and Z. It's not really the case, because humans have evolved to be social mammals. We know the effect of isolation on humans. It's very significant. If you isolate somebody, they will generally react very, very badly. And I'm going to point to shipwreck survivors on their own. Humans are social, and so our strength is a social one, a community one. So sort of saying, we're going to chuck all these different people, it unwinds that social cohesion that humans have. So it may not be the best for our survival to sort of weed out people. It may actually be way better for our survival to have everybody working as a cohesive unit. So this idea that social Darwinism, and thanks, James, I'd actually forgotten that term, should be implemented may actually be detrimental to our survival. And they lose sight of that. They only think individually. They don't think as something that may be good or bad for the individual may be good or bad for the species, and vice versa. I think it's just
they hate collectivism, or they hate anything above the person.
We're gonna do something that I just feel is fun, and that is we're gonna keep on opening and going down the Patreon, but I'm gonna send the link into chat for anyone to join us if you disagree with us. So if you think evolution is true, you come join if you want, but we're gonna wait while we keep on doing our open house.
If there's any creationists out
but
there,
if there is a creationist out there, if you think
evolution
that
skeptic,
evolution, yes, then
someone who
feel
doesn't
free to join.
accept evolution.
Yeah,
which
and
is
I think
another thing that triggered Kent when you talked about accepting evolution.
Right, and I guess, I mean, the thing that it's just a belief, it really has so much support for it. And I mean, I brought up three, and the only reason I brought up these three is because they asked for the strongest evidence. That's what I was asked for. And I think genetics is the strongest evidence. It's very, very strong, incredibly strong. But it's not the only evidence. I mean, you're doing a debate on the fossil record in a while, James, on the same channel.
Yeah.
And there's phylogenetics, there's embryology, there's a ton of things all supporting this same conclusion.
And so I'm going to, it looks like we got someone backstage. So I'm going to send love. I'm going to sneak in sending love for Diana Smith, sending love out there, because we have found that the Abrahamic religions haven't treated religion so well, and Pat Lowinger for doing so many episodes of Talk Skeptic to us, and you should find him at youtube.com/BiddyBuddha_.
Thanks,
Go learn some shit, and we are getting more episodes of Talk Skeptic to me in pre-production. So sending love out there to Pat Lowinger, sending love out there to Diana Smith, and we are going to get, looks like from VA, and we got Luca. So I'm going to give about 20-30 minutes on the clock for them to say whatever they want, but we're going to do one at a time. We are going in, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to have some fun, and we are opening the woohoo! What is up,
A from
VA?
How you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing?
My name's Anthony, by the way, if you want to call me Anthony.
Anthony. Good to meet you, Anthony. How are you?
What is up, Anthony? We are Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I'm a creationist. I watched your debate with Ken Hovind. Actually, not the full debate. I caught your opening statement, and then I came in, I saw another part towards the end, like I came in before your conclusions and then saw the Q&A. So I may have missed some of your points, but I saw your opening where your 3 lines of evidence were genetic similarities, the chromosome 2 fusion, and ERVs.
Yep.
So I have a big problem with people using the genetic similarity argument because, as Ken stated, and maybe you can address this, it doesn't prove evolution. It could be the result of a common designer. Do you not accept that?
No, I don't. Obviously, because I'm sort of I don't believe in a common designer. I think the problem here is that you had a testable prediction that was made ages ago, basically saying that if evolution is true, then we should see common links between every single animal in the genetic code and every single organism in the genetic code, going from simpler ages ago to more complex of today. And that's exactly what we found. So that wasn't a thing that we saw the complexity and then went, oh, well, we'll post hoc give an explanation. That's something where we said, this is what we should see if evolution is correct. And that's exactly what we see. Now, Kent gives this example, well, if you have, the same designer like Honda, I think he used in this debate, then you should see the same parts in it. But the problem is that Honda makes things like concept cars, things that aren't attached to the parts and the designs that were there before. They're completely new designs. And we don't see that. We don't see any new or novel designs at all. What we see is building upon the old patterns that were there earlier. And we see this right throughout the phylogenetic tree.
And I would just add that a creator could just create things unrelated doesn't have to use the same part components from all the animals. He could create something brand new that's not related to anything else, doesn't look like anything else, but evolution could not do that. Evolution can only work with what it has. It can only further diversify species, which is what we see. And you would expect to see, like Mark's saying, concept car in creation. You would expect to see something not related to anything else, but we just don't see that.
All right. Well, can I let me push back a little bit. Let's go back to before evolution was even proposed as a theory. To the 1800s, before anyone, everyone's still a creationist mostly at that point. I feel like they could have proposed at that time period that if we ever find out the means of inheritance between organisms, we would predict that, looking at apes and humans, they would be more or less very similar in how their genetic codes are structured. And if you look like the difference between like a human and a sea sponge, we would predict that the genetic codes would be very different. So I think this fits within a creationist model as well, to be honest.
Can I just ask you 2 questions?
Sure.
Question 1, why do you think us and chimpanzees look alike?
Because they were created that way.
You just think that's...
I think that humans were created as humans, apes were, each species of ape. And I will yield that microevolution is a thing, speciation is possible. But I agree with Ken that there are limits to these things. And a chimpanzee will never deviate so far that, or whatever the common ancestor was, there are limits to these things. So why is a chimpanzee? Because that's how it was made. And it can't extend beyond a certain range beyond that. So there's no reason to believe it could go farther beyond that.
Sorry, Anthony, just before you go too far, I just want to address what you brought up about a human and a sea sponge and what they believed before evolution was a thing. So back in Darwin's time, when it was creationist, they didn't think there was any resemblance at all. They considered them completely different and created completely different. So they didn't think there was any similarities. Well, for a start, people didn't know what DNA was. In fact, Darwin didn't know what DNA was. Yeah. He said that there was some mechanism, something happening to pass traits and characteristics from parents to their sons and daughters, and that was the genius of Darwin. Even though he didn't have any understanding of DNA whatsoever, the fact that they didn't know about DNA, they didn't even have a concept of a similarity between DNA. So they thought they would be totally different, that there was something completely different about humans and a sea sponge, and there was absolutely no relation between them. If they had known about DNA back then, they wouldn't have posited that they would be remarkably similar. They would have said a human and a sea sponge have been created differently, and there is a huge difference between them. So that's a big problem on the creationist side. Because when DNA was first discovered, the creationists were saying, well, there's no way there will be similar between humans and sea sponges because they're different. They're different. They're not even related to one another.
Okay.
And can I just wanted to ask one other, which was if evolution were proven to your satisfaction right now, and you were like, damn, evolution is true, would you stop being a Christian?
Well, I'd certainly have to modify a lot of my beliefs because the Bible does say that, it's kind of right there in the beginning, God created each type of living thing according to its kind. So if scientists could prove that, that's not true, or that it's possible that that's not, necessary,
so
a lot of foundation falls apart.
Sorry, Anthony, are you a biblical literalist?
No, I'm not. But I do think that the part where God's it's just too obvious. It's just too it's explicit that God created things according to their kind, and it's not a lot of room for figurative metaphor there, in my opinion.
Okay, no, that's fair enough. That's your belief, and I wouldn't presume to tell you what to believe. So a question that often comes up for atheists is what would convince us to believe, and I try not to be unfair, but I'd like to put the question back to you. Like, what would be the evidence that would convince you that evolution is real?
Well, they'd have to prove that genetic mutations can accumulate new functional coding sequences of DNA and new proteins. And if they just went into a lab, and they used to try this, but unfortunately their experiments failed, where they did mutagenesis experiments on simple organisms. And I think for the evolutionists, those were a failure. They tried to mutate the DNA scientifically and turn flies into something that's not a fly. If they were to do something like that, I would admit evolution's true. Take an organism into a lab, modify its DNA, whatever means you have, and if it turns into something that's not of its kind, then evolution's true. So there
Would you consider single-celled organisms and multicellular organisms the same kind?
Are you going to go into the algae thing you brought up during the debate?
Yeah.
Well, here's my thing on that. I haven't, like Kent responded, I have not looked into that particular scientific observation.
Oh, that's fair.
It's interesting. It would, go along. I'd have to look at that and see what it says.
Yeah, sure. No, I get you. You can't, genetics and biology, it's a huge field. I certainly haven't read as much of it as I probably have either. So that's completely understandable. No, I get you. But it is definitely one to look into, because it was specifically under threat. These algae grouped together for protection against predators, kind of thing, because they introduced predators that preyed on the algae, so to protect themselves. And a lot of people go, oh, but it's a colony. But the problem with that is colonies, one individual can break off and still survive, whereas these evolved to be an actual multicellular organism. They could not survive on their own. So that's definitely one to look into if you do want an example. I guess the problem with sort of seeing a brand new family of species, because you're using kind, and there's no real designation for kind. The closest we could get is maybe genus or family, as far as the scientific ordering system goes. It looks like sort of general taxonomy. But that takes so long, even with primitive and simple life forms, that it's very hard to do that, because it does take thousands and thousands of years, and even the short lifespan creatures, and it can take in the larger ones, millions of years to do. And I realize that you might not believe in that sort of long time, but I can't really help that that's the time it takes.
Something that Ken brought up, and I kind of agree with him, maybe you could address this, is that for some of these simple organisms, we're talking about maybe in a year, you're talking bacteria, you're talking thousands and thousands of generations, maybe millions over the course of a couple of years, like the Lenski experiments, E. coli. So
is that the citric acid adaptation?
Yeah, it's the E. coli, and they develop citric acid digestion, but they remain E. coli.
For thousands of years, I was more talking about mayflies and things with sort of a 24-hour lifespan kind of thing. Bacteria, that is a good example, the Lenski experiments, where the bacteria adapted to eat citric acid because it was its only food source. I mean, that's a very simple example, but it does show an adaptation that is very beneficial. Do you agree with Kent that there's no beneficial mutations that occur?
Well, I've read Michael Behe. He says that sometimes there are mutations that are beneficial, but it's coincidental. It's the result of loss of genetic information that is coincidentally beneficial. So I do believe they've observed beneficial mutations, but it's not anything that would prove evolutionary theory true ultimately.
Okay, I'm going to have to push back on that. Do you know what tetrachromia is?
I haven't heard of that, to be honest.
Okay, so most people have 3 cones of vision in their eyes, right? So you've got red, green, and blue. The blue one is in your normal, I can't remember which chromosome it is, but it's in your normal sequence, while there's 2, the green and the blue, in the X chromosome. So what happens is there can be a mutation, and just say one of those is knocked out in a man, right? Either your red or green is knocked out in a man. What you get then is color blindness because you only have 1 X chromosome, right? You with me so far?
So far, okay.
Right? But yes. A woman has 2 X chromosomes, right? So they've got a backup copy of those genes that allow them to see red and green. So what happens is that's the reason why color blindness only affects men, and that's the only people that it affects. But what can happen is that a mutation can occur in one of the woman's color chromosomes, the X chromosome, and they get another vision cone for color, allowing them to have 4 and not just 3. And because they have a backup copy, they can see blue, green, red, and another vision cone for another color. So in actual fact, they will be able to see shades of color that other people cannot due to a mutation. Now, this allows them to have a huge benefit, and they have documented these people who can see extra colors who work in, the paintings industry and the textile industry, design for gowns and, sort of dresses and the fashion industry. They can actually see extra colors that we cannot. And that only happens in females, biological females, because they have the extra X chromosome to be able to facilitate that. And that is new information because they have generated another color receptor that was not previously in the information available to humans.
That's another one I'll have to look into, but
Sure, yeah. Tetrachromia. It's fascinating.
Okay, so you've thrown some things. I just want to ask one more question, and then I'll leave it to someone else.
Yeah. Well, did you want to address the chromosome 2 fusion and the ERVs? Sorry, I mean, it's up to you. I just wondered if you had any questions about those.
And then after you do that, can you just entice me? I just have like 1 or 2 more questions.
Entice you? All right.
Indulge her.
Indulge her.
Oh, no. Yeah, I'll be here as long as you want me. I just didn't want to. If you want me to be here, I'll stay. But I didn't want to take someone else's time. Chromosome 2.
Guy, Anthony, you're more than welcome, mate.
All right, chromosome 2, in my opinion, as an evolutionary argument, has been debunked, and I'll tell you why I think that. I've heard that it's part of a coding sequence. The fusion area is part of a coding sequence of the chromosome, and that kind of invalidates it as a fusion spot. I don't know if you've heard this, but this is something I'm not a specialist, so I can't confirm that myself, but this is what creationists say about this. I don't know if you've heard that.
I have, but it doesn't really have much ground to stand on. And just to be honest with you, I'm not a geneticist or biologist either. The problem is that usual coding sequences never have these things called telomeres in the middle of them. So the telomeres are basically boundary points for the chromosome. They tell it where the chromosome ends. And in some way, for that to be true, that it's a coding sequence, then the creationists have to explain how the telomeres got into the center of it. I mean, I can show you a diagram if you want. I had it on my PowerPoint. And I can kind of explain why we think this is the case.
Well, I did see that portion of your presentation, and it's something I will. It's another thing I'm going to have to investigate, which is interesting. It's another area where I hadn't quite seen that, so I may have to look into it, and maybe at some other point I will get.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to convey by saying I'm not a geneticist, but I'm just conveying what the scientists say about it and the reasons why they say about it. And they have very good reasons. And look, these people are way smarter than I am, or else, I'd be working in genetics and not sitting on a YouTube channel. But they spend their lives studying these genetic things. And I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but the creationist idea that evolution isn't true is really a real fringe one. It doesn't have much backing from anywhere except for Christian think tanks. And if you want to believe it, that's fine. But as we go forward, I really wonder, as more and more evidence is revealed, what would convince you, of the truth of what the scientists and geneticists are saying.
Are you asking me that, or are you just putting it out there rhetorically?
I think you covered it. I think you said, they would have to show one turning into another, and I'm not sure if we can show you that. So yeah, but do look into all of that stuff. Sorry, Amy, did you want to say something?
No, I agree with all of that. I just wanted to ask. I wanted to appeal to you, Anthony, in a way that I think is factual, but what I think is also what you would call common sense.
All right.
And so, and this line of questioning, a shout out to a friendly Muslim out there who has coined this kind of the breast line of questioning, and that is, men appear to have nipples, which may seem like a odd statement to point out until you realize that men have nipples because, well, actually, before I give the punchline, Anthony, why do men have nipples?
So these are the kinds of questions, the bad design arguments that are so frequent. And I've heard this one before. Now, from a scientific standpoint, it appears that the nipples develop before the sex organs begin to differentiate, is what I understand. Now, the question becomes, why would God design it that way?
Uh-huh.
And basically, there are things we don't know / understand.
Okay.
/ God operates in mysterious ways.
Okay.
There are things like this that don't appear to make sense, but like some of the vestigial organ stuff that evolutionists used to believe, and some of the old argument, the junk DNA argument, maybe we'll find out there's a reason why men have nipples from a functional standpoint.
Can I just interrupt? And somewhere in there was an I don't know. I think that's actually the best answer when you don't know something. Yeah, so I appreciate that. But can I give you, and once again, I'm going to appeal to that word, common sense. I'm going to give you hopefully a good, clean, don't feel any politics on me. Men have nipples because women evolved first and men from them, and so they have these vestigial organs still on their body. That is why.
So when the human embryo is developing, everything is the same. Initially, the sex organs are all the same, and the body can take those. It can develop a male reproductive system or a female reproductive system with the same base material. And so it starts off where they have these breasts. In women, they grow and they develop. In men, they don't. But that's how biology works.
Can I propose a theory?
Just before you do, Anthony, I just want to touch on something really quick that you said. God operates in mysterious ways, and I understand the premise of that. But you said one day we may find out, and I'm just wondering what is the process that creationists would use to find out this stuff, because they aren't really making a lot of discoveries about things. So how would creationists implement processes to find out why men have nipples?
Well, we'd have to try to investigate. There's science there we can look at, which says, okay, these things are there. God put them there. There's got to be a reason. Now, I want to go back to the vestigial organs. Evolutionists used to believe there were hundreds of vestigial organs in humans, and now it's been whittled down to like a handful. So there's evidence out there that just because it doesn't seem useful doesn't mean it's not.
Yeah, so I think you're misunderstanding what vestigial organs mean, because there's still hundreds of them. They used to think that the organs may have had no use in the past, but that's not what vestigial means. Vestigial just means it either has no purpose now, like, for instance, your tailbone, for instance, or it has a purpose that is different from a purpose it had previously. So that's what vestigial actually means. So things might still, and this was done in, I think I brought up the Kitzmiller versus Dover trial, where the bacterial flagellum was brought up. And that is a vestigial organ in a bacteria, but it did have a different purpose a while ago, and I've totally blanked on what that was actually. I can probably look it up. But it did have a different purpose, and that is what vestigial means. A lot of creationists tout it as, vestigial means it had no purpose now. No, that's not actually correct. That's not what the science says.
Okay. Well, I want to propose a theory about the nipples and then ask one more question, and then I'll be out.
Hypothesis. Yeah, hypothesis. Science,
so, sure. Maybe when we look in nature, there seems to be a lot of things going on that are purely aesthetic. So, Amy, do you think men look better with nipples or without nipples?
Can I tell you why that's a biased question? Because I think that we have been naturally selected to like a sort of template. I mean, who knows? There may be some nippleless man out there that is gorgeous, but I mean, I think that the reason that they are there is more than just aesthetics. I think that they had to be there at a certain time. Like someone was saying, I think women were the template. And so I don't disagree. I think men's nipples are aesthetically pleasing. I'll agree with you there.
All right. So
which answer sounds more in depth, like the scientific answer for why they're there, or maybe when we die we can ask God and maybe he'll tell us why they're there?
Sound good.
Okay.
All right.
But yes, if you wanted to have, it sounds like you're about to say it, but I'm going to say, I'll preface it. We have been midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Lovely to have you on, Anthony. And what are your final thoughts?
Last question, and I won't say anything. I just kind of want to hear your responses. I think this is a tough one for evolutionists.
Okay.
Why do you think thousands of years of human history passed by before anyone noticed evolution would be what was happening, and then it was just proposed as a theory? So why did no one notice evolution happening for so long?
Mostly because of religious beliefs. They believed that they were created out of nothing, and in fact, people used to think that things like they saw frogs coming from the mud. Spontaneous creation, I think they called it, if I'm remembering that correctly.
Spontaneous
generation, right. So they used to think because they saw tadpoles coming from the mud, then they were being created in the mud. So in actual fact, the idea that things were actually born wasn't really known. But during a certain period, we had something called the Enlightenment, and during the Enlightenment, a lot of deistic and atheist sentiments came up, where what you saw and what your faith wasn't necessarily the explanations for things, which hadn't been put into practice. So during the Enlightenment, it was seen as, and that's the start of the scientific revolution, that we have the process of science being created out of the Enlightenment, where it's not enough to just say, hey, the reason is, the same with the Greeks thinking that the gods were throwing lightning bolts, or Zeus was throwing lightning bolts. The Enlightenment basically arose the idea that just giving an explanation is not enough. You've got to demonstrate and give mechanisms for these things occurring. And from that, we get science. And from that, we get, the scientific method and all of these new discoveries, from modern medicine to rockets, to everything you can care to name, internal combustion, everything. But here's the thing. Humans are really, really young species. Dinosaurs were around for millions and millions of years. And we have this advantage, or a couple of them actually, to do with our brains and the way that they work. And, not to mention we've got 5 fingers, not to mention the other advantage that we've got is we can actually sweat through pores in our skin. Not that relevant these days, but it is an advantage that we had in the past. And we are slowly developing our knowledge of the world, slowly, very slowly. And we've had to do it painstakingly. And this is just where we've come to these scientific revelations.
Kinky. Oh, okay. Also good.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you.
I would just say I think it's because of that we did notice it, because the time scales that evolution operates on are so incredibly long compared to a human lifespan, that from the entire course of written human history going back, maybe 5, maybe 6,000 years.
Yeah.
The animals have not changed very much in that amount of time. It's just not enough time. When we look at a tiger in the ancient world, it was a tiger. We look at a lion, it was a lion. When you look at
what really did it for Darwin was the finch beaks, which, before the advent of sailing, for instance, we had no way of getting to the Galapagos to see them, I guess.
But you're not going to see large-scale changes in the time that we've been observing. Darwin was the one who extrapolated that out and says, operating under very large time scales, this mechanism could produce large-scale changes.
And I just want to say that it took a while because we were forming natural philosophy into science, that we had to finally go from a period of darkness into the Enlightenment. And we finally kind of shed away from a lot of not just the Abrahamic religions, but just a lot of superstition. We shied away from alchemy and started opening into chemistry. And so it was a combination of a lot of these theories developing. I think, like Beamsy was saying, that a lot of this has also been brewing for thousands of years, in the same way that we knew the Earth was round.
Right.
Even during the height of Rome, but even within a few hundred years, that became an unpopular theory, and the flat Earth became dominant for hundreds and hundreds of years until better science came around, started picking around. So it's weird that you have to kind of hold this balance, in that you shouldn't shit on your ancestors, because they were doing the best with what they could do at the time. So even smart people who came with bad answers, we should try and understand with that. Who we should have a higher standard, who we should put more pressure on, is if you are going to I would say, live in a time period where I think evolution is the evidence can be provable to anyone. Like I don't think we even got to opening statements because I got so excited to bring people on. But like one of the examples I'll give you is that whether whether you are in the created or naturally developing, COVID happened because evolution happened. Like the coronavirus has been around with us as the common cold for a long time, and then it mutated. It got a range of new hosts and a range of new ways of being deadly and being able to spread itself, that it was able to go, excuse the pun and the literalness at the same time, viral. And so we then had to use those same techniques of evolution to combat it with different vaccines and boosters. But all of this it's evolution. It's biology. And so with that being said, and it looks like it does say, Mark, it almost like you had something on the tip of your tongue.
Yeah, I just
have to have, when you say this is it, I'm done, Anthony does get to have the last word.
Okay, sure, absolutely. I just thought of something that's like that. Probably primitive farmers did have a basic understanding of heritability, that they knew that they could select traits and characteristics of an animal, breed it with another animal, and produce the traits that reinforce those traits. So, breeders have had a understanding of heritability for ages. I just think it's that leap to evolution that required something massive. But yeah, go ahead, Anthony.
Just a seconds to finish up. Thank you for allowing me to have the conversation with you. I think it was fun. You had some good answers. There are some things I'm going to have to look into to be better prepared next time. Sure. But I'll take into consideration what you said. Thank you.
Back on the channel anytime. Nice. You're always welcome to come back, and we'll have round 2.
All right. Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye. And all right, we are going to just quickly thank a few more people, and then I think we're just going to open it up because we got Luca, Immutable, Midnight, and Simos back there. Looks like Hive wants to join. And yeah, so we are going to have some fun. Beamsy says, just be glad for it was not me on there. I can never hit anything. Look, sending love on there.
We did our best, Beamsy. Come on, mate. Don't.
But sending love. Speaking of which, this program is sponsored by Pat Lowinger, Diana Smith, also Dale Pastel, reminding us that we are looking for empirical evidence, just a little bit. That's kind of our shtick. In fact, Dave Gar would also like to remind us that the Abrahamic religions were a flat Earth text. No, we can see you, Bubblegum. Sending so much love out there to Dave Gar, Dale Pastel. He was out there in chat sending love to Scott Duke. Woo-hoo.
Scott Duke.
Because once again, this
Titan Uranus is out there.
There are. I was
saying watching, so better be on your P's and Q's, Bubblegum.
2 people that I want to say as often as possible online, and that is Stupid Horror Energy and Titan Uranus. It's like chocolate dripping from your lips. Fantastic. Sending love out there to our lead admin. And also sending love to Regis. We do a Skeptic Bible study on here. That is on Doc. And speaking of being on Doc, I'm going to send the link into chat because we are about to be inviting everyone on there, and I will pin it. We're getting this ready.
Pin the tail on the atheist.
On the atheist. once again, if you are a creationist, someone who doesn't believe on evolution, we still want you to come on and tell us why. We'll give you all the time you want, but we are a bit of a skeptic haven, unless you're into that. Speaking of which, sending love to Reid and sending love to Rachel Holland.
Rachel.
Reminding everyone that the Abrahamic religions would never go around to other nations taking slaves. That would be objectively wrong.
I mean, I guess they could choose to be killed. They would have to be enslaved, right?
I don't think the young girls have anything to fear. I mean, they get a free
husband.
Place in the new tribe. Yeah, you're pretty screwed if you're a boy, though.
Religion murders people. Oh, I'm sorry. That's just the Old Testament and a little bit of the New Testament, a little bit of the Quran, and all of the I call it the Desert Trilogy. But sending love to Rachel Holland, sending love to Senator Cato, reminding us, boom, 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 that we really appreciate the separation of church and state. That's kind of one of the most important things, because it turns out it's not going to be your religion. How are separation of church and state down in Aussie?
It's pretty good, but there's a lot bigger atheist population down here. And there's less evangelicals and more Catholics, who are generally, I find, to be more reasonable than the evangelicals. And I mean, it's funny that Kent keeps bringing this up, because he obviously has no respect for, the Establishment Clause in America and, the separation of church and state. He's like, no. Yeah. Oh, I laughed internally so hard when I said you're obviously familiar with courts of law. I
doesn't respect their judgments.
I saw his head shot up, and I'm like, yes, take it, Ken. And that's revenge for what you said about.
Can't take it.
That's my revenge for what you said about AJ. How dare you? How dare you make it personal?
And can I just say, I have to shout out 2 shout outs. One to AJ, who took that with grace and fantasticness, and knew. I think AJ knows, just like me, that when a theologian is attacking your gender or your sexuality, they have no idea what they're talking about, and they've been pushed into a corner so hard that they just need to, attack who we are as human beings. And also a double shout out, because I finally saw the podcast by Guts a Gibbon. So sending shout out to Guts a Gibbon.
You in there, yeah.
And it's just great because, the skeptics can defend each other, can shout out each other. We do not have holy wars. We do not schism, and thus we just keep on growing. And my lordy, I really do feel like we just get stronger every year. It may be just this, I'm biased because I spend time on the internet, and the internet seems very atheist, but it seems like the world is becoming an internet-dominated world. And if the world is an internet-dominated world, then it's going to be an atheist-dominated world.
That's what the statistics say. You don't have to be biased. You can just look at the statistics of people that respond to censuses and, polls and things like that. We can get samples but religion is growing in the underdeveloped world. So in places where they don't have a lot of education and things like that. And that's why, it seems like everybody in the internet is an atheist. It's just like, well, that's representative of the developed world. That is definitely the developed world. So churches are really failing in the developed world, especially in Europe, Australia, places like that. It really is taking a massive decline. However, the same is not true for the developed world.
Indeed. But you know what that means? It just means we need to get science and technology to everyone out there in the world. Right. And
the antidote to religion is education, in my opinion. That's all we need. Just the education of being able to think critically, use science, investigate and provide answers for things. And religion, it doesn't provide any real answers. All it does is sort of kick the can down the road and say, hey, a God did it. But it doesn't, there's no explanation in there. There's no explanatory power. All it does is say, hey, just be ignorant because a God did it. And I'm not cool with that. I'm not happy with that response. So,
and all right, I am going to get through, I think, just 2 more in a super chat. We're going to read super chat, sending so much love, $5 from Marty, Matt, scientist. Oh my, a little bit stoned and curious. Sounds like my weekends. What happens to heaven when our technology lets us live forever? Will God be pissed when he stops getting souls? This sounds like the erotica that I start to read later on at night. But I would say that hopefully technology will keep on making us live longer and longer. I think this is this irony or a coincidence that transhumanism is actually the term for the continuation, for the extension of life, not like this transhuman.
Oh, it's always hilarious when they get that wrong. I've seen answers. Yeah, I've seen people put posts about transhumanism, and they're like, "How dare you support the trans?" And it's like, "Oh, come on!
You're trying to make all humans trans." Yes, you finally found the gay agenda.
Yes, global homo is real.
Right. That's right.
We put the surgery centers right across from the schools, and we just marched the kids over for their sex change operations. Right.
What happens to heaven?
Pump up with the hormones.
Look, I mean, I don't think technology is anywhere close to making us live forever. I don't think it probably will. It's impossible to say whether we'll do that before we wipe ourselves out.
I have a rule of thumb, and when I say me, I feel like I just got this from engineers, which is if it has moving parts, it will eventually break down.
Right,
and so that is one of the big problems. Will God be pissed when he stops getting souls? Yes, but only after he gets permission and comes. Once again, we are a PG-13 to our podcast. We love everyone out there.
Well, it depends, because the Bible sort of says that God's going to come down and round up all souls, right? He's gonna come and collect the what do they call it, the flock or whatever, and just haul off with us. So I don't think, even if we can live forever, apparently, according to the Christians, we don't get a choice. He's coming for us, baby. So
I don't think anybody would really want to contemplate existing forever. I think
that's horrible.
Once you've done everything there is to do an infinite number of times, read every book, answered every question, I feel like after a while you would just want to not exist.
Marty, it's like, ew. Okay, that's okay. We'll let God have a little bit of a darker twist on it instead, and collect souls of the dead.
Let's get some of these fine folks on, hey? And
well, I will say that we do have Lucia, Midnight Simos, Bree. We've been having a lot of people. It looks like a fight backstage to see who comes on first. Once again, that's what she or he said. But in between these fine people, we are also going to do 2 more shout outs and opening statements. But we couldn't help ourselves tonight. We just couldn't help ourselves.
Why not? No one's
Why not? We are bringing on Lucia. We are having a midnight ranting, and we are asking ourselves, what's the best evidence for evolution? Oh my.
Hey,
what is up, Luca? We are midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Glad to have you on board. And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about tonight?
I think it was really, really good. I have to say to Mark that he did good. So, of course, Kent always try to change the topic. He always does that, and it's not fair, of course, but he is like that. But you did well. As I said in the chat, I've seen some young Earth creationists discussing about Kant and saying that he was not prepared to this debate. So it's good. You did really, really
Mark
good.
really threw him off his game.
Sorry?
I said Mark really threw him off his game.
Yes.
Thank you, Luke. I really appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
I will also debate him in some days. So I will do something similar. I want to stick his feet to the fire. Also, my debate as a smaller topic, so I will try.
You've debated him before, right?
Sorry?
You've debated Kent before, right?
Yeah, only one time. It was my first debate on standing for
What
truth.
was that on? What was that? The Age of the Earth, if I remember, or what was the topic?
No. Was about evolution in general. I think
Okay.
I did well. He never posted the debate on his channel. I can say only that. I think that he underestimated me because I'm Italian. I do not speak English that well. I think he did a mistake on that. He did regret that. But he want to debate me again, so we will see.
Do it again.
I'm pretty much prepared. But
what's the topic? Is it the same thing, evolution, or is it more specific?
No, it's about mutations, good mutations. So it will be more focus.
You are going to have to try hard to hold his feet to the
Yeah.
Try to bounce all over.
He will never stay on topic. He cannot do that.
Just one topic. I mean, how will we not get him to the Big Bang?
Yeah. He will try his shenanigan about the sixth level of evolution for sure, even though it's in the title of the debate, the mutation thing. So he will do it, and he don't care. He does not care about this.
When is the debate?
When?
Yeah, when?
5 of August.
August 5th?
Yes, on SFT.
Yeah, I feel like Kent knows this stuff by now is not true. He's been taught by the best people in the world. Like, if you were to go through a biology course this many times and still don't get it, I feel like it's more of a
He doesn't want to get it. Yeah, he doesn't want to get it. That's the thing. You would have to try hard not to get it, and he does.
Oh, does he?
I think that he does not know almost anything about science. If you are talking about biology over a certain level,
whoa,
chemistry,
Luca,
he does not know.
He has been a science teacher for 15 years.
He has his doctorate degree.
Sorry, I'm not as knowledgeable as him, but I do think that
who are among any of us here.
But to be honest, I do not think he does understand science. When
you think he just goes over his head? He doesn't get it.
He cannot He does not get it. But sure, he did too many debates to think he's right about this kind of things, but
He's
he
in
does
too
not
deep.
care.
Yeah, I think it's sort of, he must know that he's straw man arguments by now.
This is not what we believe.
Right, but I think, part of me just thinks he's just there to promote his, well, it used to be his DVDs, now it's his Dinosaur Adventureland or whatever, some 2-bit carnival.
And hopefully, fingers crossed, one day it'll be trading cigarettes out in the yard. What we're talking about, Farron Salas, $5.
Oh, thank you, Farron.
From bureaucratic organisms. Then why are there still bureaucratic organisms?
Bureaucratic? You mean run by Europeans? I don't know.
Yes, they joined the European Union.
Right.
Eukaryotic.
Eukaryotic, yes, thank you. Amy, James, Mark, Luca,
we're still
everyone backstage.
Yeah, I will not rob you any more time. I just want to say
thank you so much for coming on, Luca.
Bravo, even better, bravissimo.
Thanks.
Because you did
I put
very, very
for
well.
your debate the channel too, so everyone go check that out. Luca's really good. I think your English is fine, mate. It's way better than my Italian. I'll give you shit right now. I think
I understand you just fine.
Yeah, we understand you fine. And the thing is, you shouldn't judge people's, and that's the mistake that Kent made. You shouldn't judge people's arguments by their personal attributes, because you have strong arguments that it doesn't matter if you've got an accent or whether you're wearing a dress or whether you're standing on your head. The arguments stand on their own merits, not by the person's delivery.
It was last week, and Kent was debating a gentleman, and I think he had maybe a little speech impediment. But Kent, it would take a little bit of stuttering maybe, but the whole time when the guy was talking, Kent would just snicker. I caught him snickering a few times about it. It's just the fact that he's so judgmental about these external characteristics of people, like the way they talk or the way they, instead of just engaging with the arguments. It's really infantile.
No. If you ask me, that's a feature. I think that Kent knows that it cannot be, it cannot stick to a point, because if you stick to a point, he will not be prepared for it. He does not prepare for arguments from the debaters. So I think that he tries to make people angry, to transform the debate in a dumpster fire, because as soon his opponent start to insult him, to be rude in any way, he won. Because
can I tell you, that's why I think he does, in my opinion, he does a bunch of insults that are projections, and yet if you were to combat them, it just makes you sound like you're complaining. So an example of that is he's like, I just want to believe in this mythology. And if you were to sit there and go, hey, you believe in a mythology, that's what you believe, you just sound silly, even though literally he is telling us that he believes in talking snakes. But once again, to spend energy on trying to bat down how, that's why he would say, when I debated Ken, he'd say something like, you believe in the evolution religion. And I would just be like, Kent, thank you. I appreciate anyone who wants to use religion as an insult.
Right.
And so, but it's hard. It's hard to do that consistently. And Mark, I thought you did great tonight.
Yeah, you did.
I thought Mark had just the right amount of assertiveness without crossing that line into the.
I was being cheeky as hell. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But I think that my tactic when something like that comes up is not to get angry, but rather just say, no, you're wrong. Here's the reason why it's not a religion. And if he keeps bringing it up, you just say, we've already covered this. These are the reasons why it's not a religion. You don't have a response to that. But yeah, it is difficult. And I think that with Kent, he will bring up stuff in order to slip away. Like he'll bring up accents. He'll bring up speech impediments. He'll bring up what people look like, just to slip away from questions, kind of thing. He's so, and I was talking to James earlier, and he's just so slippery, just incredibly hard to pin down.
Oh, come on, Mark! Now you're just making the jokes for me.
Oh, I know. Look, that's my entire purpose.
Pin him down.
Yeah, there is a point during my debate with him where because he was underestimating me for sure, and it got to a point where he was not able to get away, and so he did stop the debate. If you look at my debate, it's shorter than an ordinary debate.
He was trying to run away.
1 hour and a half, and he never posted on his channel, and I'm sure it's because I got him, and he awesome. Does know that.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. I love it. That's amazing, because I'm sure you have a way better knowledge of biological systems than I do.
I'm
definitely way better than Ken.
Not a biologist, but
my field is network engineering. I am not. But I do know that genetics is the strongest evidence, and that's why I brought the strongest evidence. But people like Luca and Gutsick Gibbon, Erica, and all of these people, they
Jackson
have amazing knowledge. Yeah, absolutely. And I was mentioning earlier, Wade the Wizard is actually quite knowledgeable as well. They're really good people with a lot of knowledge, and kudos, well done, Luca. That's
and
awesome.
So I'm gonna send out.
Well
to
done to you, because
you
did very, very well.
Luca, I'm gonna let you have a final
word.
You can actually stick around.
I
feel bad because this isn't a call. We're actually going open mic. We're just gonna keep on pulling people in.
Yeah, I think I will go to bed because it's like 7 in the morning.
Of course. Yeah.
That sounds good. Well,
but I know that Midnight was asking to ask me something that.
I'm going to have delayed gratification because I can feel it. We'll send love to Ian. Luca, what is your final word? We have been midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. What are your final thoughts?
Wonderful debate. I could not do any better. So kudos to you.
Thank you so very much.
Thanks so much for
chatting,
Luca.
And I
will
temporarily pin because I saw Mark doing it in chat.
Luca's first debate.
Kinky. Yes, if I can find it again. God, I
thought I was out of the camera's range when I was doing it.
But thank you so very much, Luca, for being here. Like I said, stick around, or if not, it's been lovely, and we hope we can tuck you into bed.
You know what Nate said, but Kent didn't mention whale penises this time. He mentioned a duck penis, though. He always has to mention animal penises. I
was going to say, I could just not get enough of hearing Kent Hovind seemingly think a lot about animal genitalia. I feel like you could fill podcast after podcast of Kent
always
Hovind
talking about animal
genitalia.
Though in his defense, duck penises are quite fascinating. Like, they're just so strange. Like, it's like
Well, yeah. Nature's a little bit. She get a little bit
kinky.
weird.
Yeah, a bit kinky.
A little bit kinky, but we don't kink shame.
No, we're not going to kink shame Kent.
But I do want to send. I think Ian is sending this to all of us here. And I think this is what you did. You can't see it, but what this is a mic drop. Ian sending so much love out there.
I think
And
Mark had a
think,
couple mic drop
yeah,
moments
had a
during the
few
debate.
of those tonight.
The what experiment you would do, that was a big one. To prove creation, that was a huge mic drop moment.
Yeah, being terrifying is right. Yeah, you're actually right, mate. I agree. Interesting, but terrifying. Yes.
I describe so many penises that way. But we are Midnight Ranting.
Amy catalogs them and divides them like careless Linnaeus divided life. Amy divides penises like that.
No, you gotta have a
subgroups. And...
It's more of a science than an art.
Okay.
Sending love
Thanks,
to
Eddie.
Hey, Eddie.
Podcast, who you should go check out, has many awesome streams. Sending love to Eddie. I think that he won't mind me continuously calling him one of the sane theists. We have Beamsy out there in chat. We have Eddie. Why do we have to deal with creationists? Young Earth creationists. That's the true theme.
It's so much fun, though. It's fun.
Yeah, come on. It's yeah.
But yes, we have Midnight Sivo Spree. We want to get them on, and we are. We're just going to get them in as they have their opening statements, and then we'll just keep on adding our skeptics.
One more Patreon or two
yes,
more
we'll keep on sending another love to do. Also, Jazz Hand sending love to all of our Patreons, but also
Senator Cato was the
last. Regis, Rachel, Senator Cato, James Wolfe sending so much love. Boom, 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 boom. And James Wolfe reminds us, he's out there. I saw him, that we do so many late night podcasts. We are going to start doing some day and evening podcasts.
This was earlier than normal.
Including a bunch of Debate Me bras. So boom, 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 boom. Though I am moderating a debate on Modern Day Debate on Thursday. Woo! So go check that out with our lovely interlocutors over there. Sending love to James.
What debate is that? Over
there. I think it's going to be, did dinosaurs exist with humans or something adjacent to that sort of topic?
Sounds good.
And also Sideshow Nav and the entire Modern Day community. But sending love to James Wolfe. Woohoo! And I will keep on. We'll do another Patreon in a second. We'll bring
no shame.
on.
Control yourself. Yeah.
I want to give a big shout out to the Modern Day Debate mods. I love them all.
Hello.
Yeah, they're fantastic. Hi, Midnight.
Hey, Midnight.
What is up, Midnight? We are Midnight Ranting on, in fact, what's the best evidence for biological evolution? Hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts about the topic?
Well, hold on. You want your best evidence for evolution? Me. Okay, I'm the best evidence for evolution. Well, no, seriously. Actually, you know what? Well, I did want to say something to Mark. And this is something I have. I'm not an expert, obviously, but while looking into epigenetics, I did learn that for some weird reason, the extra X chromosome of the in women gets silenced. So it's like women have two X chromosomes, but the other one is basically just sitting there doing nothing, which is weird. I mean, you can look it up if you want to. This is something I've read about epigenetics.
I don't know. I only brought it up in relation to colorblindness, and it's pretty well known that only men are colorblind, and that's in my research. That was the reason why. So I don't know if
it's a
defective
X chromosome.
Only men
are you sure it's only men? That's kind of weird.
Yes. I mean, you can look it up if you want.
Interesting.
Well played. You lose. But no, I didn't.
red-green color blindness is the only one that men are colorblind in, red-green, because that's the one in
Bimsy said it is very rare for women to be colorblind, but 99.9% are men. Okay, well, I said it before, but I'll say it again. If probably you didn't see it, men are just defective women, and I can say that as a man.
Well, and can I just say, there are some theists, like I brought up Friendly Muslim, who I think they think it's so, in a cheeky, giggly way, silly that I bring up what I would call the nipple defense.
Nipples.
And yet, I swear, it's just a great way to illustrate, because it's not just science. I feel like the creationists feel it intuitively. They're like, shit. Why do men have nipples? And
Well,
no,
like, hold on. Amy, if you ask G-Man why men have nipples, it's to see in the dark. Jesus Christ, I can never forget that argument.
I'm sorry. What?
Yeah, apparently this is shit that happened like years ago, but apparently G-Man believes that men have nipples to see in the dark. I don't know how the hell that works. I don't know how that works.
Did you have anything else that can I address what you said about you're the best evidence, or do you have anything else to add, Midnight?
I mean, you can address that. I was really being cheeky, and
I know I'm going to be cheeky right back. So yes, you are the best evidence because there are endogenous retroviruses in your DNA as well. So yes, you are the best evidence for evolution.
Well, the reason why I'm saying I'm the best evidence is because I'm albino. So I obviously have the two alleles that have a genetic mutation. So that's why I'm the best evidence, because because of my albinism.
Sure, I agree. We're all you're definitely one of the best evidences we have. Sure.
I agree. Men are defective women. Hold on, can you put that back? Men are defective women. Transition fixes many of those defects. I mean, you know what? I like being a defective woman. So that's fine. I'm not transitioning anytime soon.
Yes, and currently we're only going to force transition all males in our erotica. Anyway, moving forward.
How many Diogens have you? Never mind. Moving on.
No. Look, I'm pansexual. I need all those genders and sexes out there. Keep doing your thing.
Oh, you're pan?
Mwah. Oh, I'm pan specifically because I don't like non-stick.
Look, and I've never seen something that Amy doesn't love ever. So Amy loves everything.
I mean, she loves me, so there's that.
Woo! I'm sending so much love, Midnight.
He is lying. He has red eyes. He is really a demon. No, that is the life in the pits of hell. Okay, not all albinos have red eyes, and besides, the whole red eye thing is just. I don't know where the hell that came from. I forget what that is, but no. Okay. No.
Do you burst into flames when you walk through a church?
No, but I burst into flame if I stay out in the sun too long.
Doesn't that happen to all us atheists? We burst into flame if we work into a church. Just thought it was something. Okay.
You have to basically throw babies into volcanoes to make sustain our energy and stay alive.
By the way, I also like to say that I'm Italian, like Luca. So I wanted to come on and talk a little Italian. Yeah, speak a little Italian with him. I love being. Oh, okay. So, Luca, come stai? Dormi bene stasera o stamattina? Perché è mattina all'Italia, no? Che tempo è? Setta mattina. Ma di chi? Perché si dice? Okay, sorry, I'm just.
Negatini do Al Pacino.
Yeah. But now you have to do a spoiler alert. What did you say?
Okay, I basically told Luca that it's like 7 a.m. and he should go to sleep.
Yeah, I agree with that. Luca, go to sleep.
And he responded to you in the side chat there.
But yes, Midnight, would you have any final words? You can still stick around. Just we're gonna keep on adding people in.
Amy will
Martina
continue,
said
and then
the Martina. Yes, it is. It is. Well, I don't have any. I guess the final words is that I have no final words. I'll just mute.
That's a final
it.
word.
Mic
So you're
drop.
lying. You're lying.
Oh, it sounds like we're about to have a debate me, brah.
Yeah, debate me, bro. Yeah, I'm lying. Okay.
Let's go. Is saying that you have no final word a final word? I'm taking the affirmative.
And on that note,
is that
For another
confetti
one.
or
We
30,000
are-
shredded emails?
we have Simos, Bree, and Beamsy left. We are going to add. We're going to first of all send love to Matt Deeg, who reminds us all to that creationists cannot give us a model for how galaxies are created. So sending love, Matt Deeg, and asking once again, like the flat earthers, creationists, please bring us a model. Show us how you can make
Not a model
galaxy.
car, not a model rocket, a model for a galaxy.
Yeah, how galaxies are created, which is called evolution, according to Kent Hovind. So
He just
Well,
smears everything on her.
You can't have biological evolution without a galaxy for the life to evolve in, right? You gotta have a galaxy.
we've got to prove how life came about first. Well, we can even discuss evolution, the topic that I agreed to for this debate.
By that logic, we can't talk about physics because we don't know where the matter came from. So therefore, what do we know?
And all right, on that, we are going to bring Simos Funk in. Simos Funk, what is up?
Ciao.
Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Hope you're doing well. What are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we have been talking about tonight?
Thank you so much. Okay, I'll rattle through it as quick as possible because there are a lot of people waiting. So obviously everyone's speaking to Luca. So ciao, mia compagnia tifosi. Just say that, please. If you're into Formula One, please come and watch my Formula One channel that I host with Fabio, and we'd love some input from yourself if you're into Ferrari. That is, of course, we're all Ferrari supporters this year.
Goodbye, my Ferrari friend. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. No problem. Yes. Thank you. And also, yeah, I mean, again, Mark did really, really well. I'm super impressed with Mark once again. So, I'm just going to say that I'm not into, I'm no biologist by a long way. I barely know where my own penis is, let alone where what somebody else's means, or a duck's, or any such thing.
Amy can help you with that. She can give you a map.
Oh, don't tempt me. I'm on my way. No, seriously.
all about this.
Any excuse to get her on her knees. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my!
Okay, moving on.
I offer coupons.
Yeah. Do you take luncheon vouchers? Okay, no, seriously now. That's my old joke from
We'll
back
have
in the
to
day.
check the book.
Anyway, look, seriously, go back to the thing because there's lots of people to get in. So I want to be as quick as possible. So yeah, Mark, fantastic, Mark. It's always a pleasure to hear you debating because, like you, I try to be as reasonable in my debates as possible and as charitable as possible because I think that's the hallmark of a good debater. And you are the antithesis of that. Or no, you're not the antithesis. Obviously, you are the. What's the word?
The antithesis of what you just said.
Yeah, no, it's not that. The protithesis, if it's not even a word, but whatever it is, you are an excellent representation of what a good debater is. And
really
I think we could all learn a lot in the atheist community from the way you behave and conduct yourself in debates. So that's the first thing. The second thing is later. And this is my bugbear. I don't know what the best thing for evolution is. I've no idea. Transitional fossils seem to be a pretty good one for me. But obviously, only because it's a contentious topic, I would never debate on evolution anyway. However, I would say my little bugbear that I did hear later on when you said it, Mark, was about the Enlightenment. Okay. And this is just my personal bugbear. Okay, so please don't take this in any
I'm more than
kind
happy
of
to
way.
hear. More than
Yeah,
happy.
I think the scientific method was thought up, or not thought up, because that's a bad way to say it. Right, Aristotle, first had some ideas about it when he did his lagoon work and his work on some particular types of fish. But nonetheless, later, at least in Western tradition, I think that was taken up by Roger Bacon in the 13th century, and then moved on through the Renaissance, through obviously Southern Europe, in Italy and Venice, etc., with the greats, right? Leonardo and Thomas, the guy that was burnt at the stake. Can't remember his name offhand. But people like that, Kepler, of course. So yeah, even before then, the Babylonians did observation of the stars to find out about the cycle of the year and the seasons, at least to document them. So it goes back a long, long way. In the Western tradition, Christianity is very important to coming to the scientific method. But one thing I would say is you were correct in, and I just want to make that I'm not trying to override your point here. I think what you were correct in, and just didn't phrase quite the way I would like it, being a nitpicky person, is that the Enlightenment was responsible for the modern scientific method, which is slightly more in depth and has more steps to it than the Christian version Roger Bacon came up with, or the versions later on that some of the philosophers came up with, like Tycho Brahe, etc. So that's just a minor point. The Enlightenment, I don't think, is responsible for the scientific method. I think it's very much predates
Gradual build up.
Yeah, I mean, there are particular people that are, but they tend to be Christians. I mean, again, I just want to say the other thing. I just want to say the Renaissance period as well. The Muslims had a good idea of the scientific method as we later came to know it first, before even the Renaissance. So in the 1300s, 1400s, I think it was, that they were taking Aristotle's work on induction and really rewriting the treatise on it. And it's when that particular book came into the Western canon through Spain, and more importantly through the through this, I think it's the Library of Seville. That's when Southern Europe really got into the swing of scientific endeavor. And then when the schism, when the Inquisition happened, a lot of those scientists moved north into Northern Europe.
Begin the Inquisition.
Were you talking about
exactly? And then
Thomas Cranmer burned at the stake, the Archbishop of Canterbury? Thomas Cranmer?
Not specifically him, no, because I think that's more to do with theological changes that were afoot, shall we say. But this is scientific, so a lot of scientists moved into Northern Europe, and in fact,
said Thomas. That was the only one I could think of.
Yeah, it's another Thomas that I'm thinking of, and he was burnt at the stake in Italy, I think, in around or just after Giovanni. No, the name's gone for me, but he was a student of Leonardo da Vinci. He also claimed that the heliocentric model was correct.
Yeah, you're probably right, Simos. I probably did sort of focus on the Enlightenment as just one event rather than a gradual procession of things leading up there, and especially now that you mention it, sort of the golden age of Islam was very important. But would you agree that the Enlightenment was definitely a turning point for science towards the modern scientific? Yeah, okay.
No, I always use the phrase the modern scientific method when I'm talking about the Enlightenment, because it's prefaced by Locke and Hume and a lot of philosophical advancements which come just before it, which almost set the ground for this movement away from Paley's kind of watchmaker attitude of, there is a creator which set everything in motion.
Yeah.
Right. So
that's
the difference.
Yeah. No, I agree. I do.
I mean,
agree.
at the time, of course, atheism proper was beginning to be explored and expounded upon, in France. So yeah, that's just my little thing. It's just one word you didn't say, which is modern scientific method, and a lot of Christians push back on that straight away because they want to say, well, it was a Christian that first came up with the scientific method. That's not true either, of course, but certainly in the Western canon, it is true.
But I would ask you, Simos, what would be your final word? We are midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for evolution.
Yeah, as I said, I think personally it's transitional fossils, because I think that was the work done in the 19th century by a lot of scholars and geologists to show that fossils were in fact, making or dating the Earth to millions of years at least, not just billions, but millions of years at least, showing that evolution was possible.
Yeah, Archaeopteryx is very strong. And somebody brought.
Oh yeah, that as well. Yeah.
Archaeopteryx,
I can't tell if
Tiktaalik.
that. I do have to interrupt. I can't tell if that was the actual amazing atheist backstage. If it was, feel free to join, and we'll open up the open mic. Sending love out there to all of our YouTube atheist brothers and sisters.
So I just want to say that the final thing then is that I say transitional fossils. I'm not pointing at any specific ones, but the age of the Earth was an important point to show that Darwin's theory could be correct, right? So in some sense, without that being the stage being set first, that the Earth was much older than people thought, right? Then it wasn't possible for evolution to be thought of as a real, a possible theory. So I think that's a really crucial point in the history of science and the way the theory of evolution came about. Obviously, there were many lines pointing to it. Geological evidence as well was pointing to an ancient Earth, but also, as I was saying, or in Edinburgh that was done, but also the idea that there were these massive dinosaur fossils which couldn't be 6,000 years old, as James Ussher said. Right, I'm finished. Thank you.
Thanks, Simos.
Thank you so very much, Simos, and stick around. We just got 2 more skeptics to bring in. And check out Simos' channel. Check out some racing content out there. Even theists can enjoy that. Come on now.
Fabio and Funk, the new channel name.
And I'm a little bit drawn to anyone named Fabio, but that's.
Are you still doing the soccer stuff with Will, football stuff with Will?
I personally don't do football stuff with Will. I go on his channel occasionally because I'm an Arsenal fan and he's a Tottenham fan, and we're at war with each other allegedly. So, I like to go on to tease him and he teases me, but no. I do Formula One.
You also do
with Peter, right?
Say again? Do I also do what, Mark?
With Peter.
Yes, with Peter. Go on, Mark, sorry.
Don't you also do gaming content? Don't you?
I do, yes. Daisy. I do gaming content with Savage Minnow and sometimes with Savage Minnow, sometimes with Holy Speckle, and sometimes with somebody else who I can't remember right now.
So if you like the zombies, go check it out.
So, lots of zombie killing and all sorts of stuff.
And with that, we're going to
get... Sorry.
Okay. No. We always love our zombie killing. It's okay. But
yeah. Nothing like a Scar H556 or Scarlight 556.
Training for the zombie apocalypse. We're doing it. We're doing it real here.
I will say, I'll give you the best tip that we have been in watching a bunch of seasons of Walking Dead that you could do. In the zombie apocalypse, the people you need to fear, ladies and gentlemen, are the humans. Just stay away from humans and you will do okay.
As far as I understand it, that's true of DayZ as well.
It really is, yeah.
pew pew. Yeah, and remember, ladies and gentlemen, with zombies, always important to do the double shot.
Double tap.
The double tap, exactly. But
DP.
on a much more fabulous note, we are going to bring fabulous and intelligent note. We are going to bring Bree in here and then Beamsy, and then we're going to have the whole skeptic crew. So, Bree, actually, let me say that again.
Welcome aboard,
Bree. Welcome aboard. We are Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Hope you're doing fantastic. What are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, or anything we've been talking about tonight?
Oh, well, by Frozen, I don't have a great connection.
A little, but your voice doesn't seem to be lagging, so you seem to be doing good.
Okay. Yeah, so I always appreciate Mark's contributions and what he has to say. Obviously, I also enjoyed his interaction with Danny the other day too. I know they were going at it, but I like Danny and Mark, and it was good stuff. But as far as the best evidence for evolution, it's what phylogeny. It's the fossil record. It's how it's the genetics. It's all these things that work together. It's the ecology. Everything is working in a network together and cooperating the other evidence and building it's like having all these different pieces to a puzzle or different gears to make a machine work. You need each one in order to get a full picture. So it's multiple disciplines of science that corroborate together to build the picture that we call biological evolution.
That's the beauty of it.
The frustrating thing about Kent is I only talk about 2 or 3 topics at one time. So it's, you kind of have to say, hey, there's all these converging lines of evidence all going to the same answer, but you can't talk about all of them because he refuses.
Right.
I think he does that intentionally because I think he knows that.
So Matt Powell, I don't know if Kent does it. Well, Matt Powell back in the day, he wouldn't talk to someone who understood biology. He'd try to talk to them about cosmology, and for someone who understood the like astrophysics and stuff, he'll try to talk to them about biology because he doesn't want to engage with somebody who actually knows the topic. I've been trying to get Matt Powell to debate me. Yeah. Been trying to get Matt Powell to debate me for a couple of years now, and he still won't do it.
Dodging.
I'm not familiar with Matt Powell. I don't pay much attention to Kent's world at all. Like I really don't know who he's I've got no idea. I have no wish to. I mean,
I actually started engaging with him not through Kent, not before he was directly linked with Kent Hovind. Back when he had my friend Ethan, your friendly neighborhood atheist, Ethan Michael, on his movie to try to make him look dumb, and then we did a review about it. And I warned him before he went and talked to Matt Powell because I watched him do it to the raging atheist Nakasuchi. I'd seen Nakasuchi. Nakasuchi. I don't mean to butcher your name. I saw him do that same crap to him, so I knew it was a setup. I had told him, but he went anyway. So we had to break it down. That's what Matt Powell's famous for is his what's the word I'm looking for? He has uncharitable editing of his interactions with people.
Yeah, people like Ray Comfort did a lot of that as well, sort of really uncharitable editing and stuff like that. Beamsy says, I presume this is Matt Powell, picture a mini Kent who is more homophobic. Oh, that's a frightening statement. Okay, Beamsy, I'll have nightmares now.
That's Beamsy, why it was so funny.
We're actually about to bring you on. Is there anything you would like to say, Bree, before we do?
No, other than that, I'm sorry if my signal was bad. I'm out in the middle of nowhere right now, so.
Oh no, it's
I was glad to be able to get in here and interact with you guys.
Thanks, Bree.
In fact, we are going to shout out to Hive Science. You should be checking it out live with the Hive Science. You should be looking at Bree's awesome content. Woohoo! And all right, we are about to bring Beamsy on. We have finished out giving our shout outs. So we want to give a final shout out to all of our channel members who you can find in the description below. All of our Patreons who really help us make all of our fantastic content. And of course, viewers like you. So thank you guys so very much, along with the mods and of course the people in chat. And with that,
You're all in trouble now.
Beamsy, what is up? We are Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Hope you're doing fantastic. And what are your thoughts about the debate, the topic, and anything we've been talking about tonight?
Beamsy evolved into a cat.
Could you really say it was an evolution? Because I've still got the one next to me.
Sorry, Beamsy. Go ahead, mate.
The aspect of presenting why Kent needs to have his 6 levels of evolution, which covers 6 different fields of study. So, like it was brought up before, if he's taking on a biologist, he'll bring on geology or astrophysics. If he's taking on an astrophysicist, he'll bring on biology or geology. He'll never meet people on an even playing ground or anywhere that he does not have a perceived advantage.
Pretty dishonest, yeah.
It's probably why he'll never debate me, because I exclusively want to debate the deep age aspects and the proof that we can actually show through geological explorations exclusively and not bring up anything else.
Well, I mean, you could always do another couple of debates somewhere else, and sort of work up to it. I don't think Kent debates anybody that hasn't debated before. I think he looks for people he thinks he's going to pummel, kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, unless it's the name that you're using. We've had this joke before.
I think.
I think that if your name is fine and you've done a debate somewhere else, then he'll probably debate you. I don't, because he's trying to break Gish's record for debate. Everybody knows this.
He won't take me on because of the aspect that I actually do professional debates. I've never done a YouTube debate. I've always done formal debates, which operate at a completely different level to anything what he tries to express. So,
is there a reason why you don't?
He won't take on. I've never had the opportunity. Also, I've never had the invitation because most of the time I'm either studying or I'm working on other things.
Oh, that's fair enough. Yeah, no, but if you want to, jump in the mud pit with the rest of us idiots. If you're good for formal debate, I'm sure you'll be good on, just
I'm sure
YouTube.
Beamsy would do fine.
Yeah, I'm sure as well.
Debate.
Yeah,
I know I'll do
absolutely.
fine, except for the fact being that I'll just keep calling it out on his bullshit, and that will probably be the end of the debate.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that probably won't be a very interesting debate, but sure, you do your techniques.
It's more of, this is not the way a debate's meant to be. Why are we doing a one-sided question? Why are we doing a loaded question? Why is only one person defending the affirmative or negative position? You have to actually take a position and defend it. You don't just have...
Put the burden just on one side.
Yes,
okay,
that's...
Midnight. Bye, Midnight. We'll catch you later. Thank you.
Midnight.
I usually debate on the University of New South Wales or at the University of Brisbane.
Okay. Well, I think it's just because YouTube's a lot more rough and tumble. It's like the Wild West of the debating formats.
It's not.
Anything to go.
They're
I
not
still
really
think,
debates. They're more of a...
ideas win. I still think that the person with the more rational and structured arguments will win in that circumstance. So I don't see, it may be a different format, but I don't see why, if you've got good arguments, why they can't be adapted to a rough and tumble style like YouTube, because the better arguments will win out, and I firmly believe that.
It's just that I'm a rather of stickler for the timing, so that's another thing with it. So that's
fair enough. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know how I'd do in a formal debate, to be honest. I think I'd be fine, but
it's a completely different monster because you know what your protagonist is actually going to express before they actually express it. You're given time before anything is actually done, and you have to present your arguments, and they have to present their arguments to you beforehand, and then you need to research a way to actually present them as either the affirmative or the negative. And that's the biggest part of what the failing of YouTube debates are. It's because it's more of a discussion and reliance on the information you have on hand. So it's more of an entertainment aspect, not really a debate format.
Okay. Well, I mean, I enjoy doing it. So if it's entertainment, then so be it. I just really enjoy
it. Is a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I kind of encourage everybody, if you have if you want to give it a try, it can be incredibly fun. Can be a little frustrating at times, but I think anything that's a challenge is worth doing.
That's the most rewarding, right?
I think you make a really good point with saying about the have both sides having to have at least some kind of positive claim, and I think that gets passed over a little bit on YouTube debates. You're right, but that doesn't mean that for my personal feelings, a good debate is two openings which both have positive claims in, and then at least as far as YouTube goes, then at least that gives the discussion two ways to go, rather than just being, as you said, one person defending the affirmative and the other person trying to knock holes in it, which I don't think is necessarily a great way to go. But of course, because we have theist debates, a lot of atheists don't want to take that affirmative position because they don't necessarily hold to it, So that's just some of the issues you get. But I don't have a problem. I'm quite happy to define local theism and then be an atheist against that.
My problem is because I'm autistic and I'm so well versed in doing formal debates, I could not break those habits. So I'll just continually call out that, excuse me, this is a breach of protocol. Why is this person doing this?
Oh, you'd have fun with Kent then. Holy crap.
That's I couldn't help it because of if you
one topic at a time, I hope it.
The things that he just agreed to at the start of the debate and launch right into breaking what he agreed to do.
He just agreed to.
I know. I saw it.
It's just like you couldn't possibly have forgotten in that span of time. Or why did you not bring up that you had 20 points at the start when we were talking about he's like, look, Kent's got no shame when it comes to protocol and agreements kind of.
All we've ever seen is dogs produce dogs, right? That's all we see.
Well, we've seen that in quite a lot of university debates in this country. Certainly with whatever his name is, William Lane Craig. Right? There's a beautiful one at Cambridge he did, where he's determined to try and stick to the formal debate structure, and he just can't. He literally cannot do it. Although he tries his very best, but he queers it at the end. Of course, he queers the pitch at the end. And you just love it. You love to see it because it's someone out of his depth. You know what I mean? And you think, wow, William Lane Craig out of his depth.
Well, the disturbing thing is that he's one of the better debaters for the creationist side. That's the disturbing
thing. I'm going to see. We'll see if this is the real. Sending love. Amazing atheists. We are Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. How are you and what are your thoughts? Debate, the topic, or anything we can talk about?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, amazing atheist?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Hello.
So what are your thoughts about biological evolution?
I just believe that it disproves God.
You think that it disproves God?
Which one?
Yep.
I'm not so sure of that. I don't think it reaches that level because the thing about an unfalsifiable God is you can always kick it back along the path and say, well, and I do know a lot of Catholics that do believe that God created the evolutionary mechanism. Now, there isn't a lot of evidence for that, but you're talking about that the evolution showing that can't happen. And I don't think it rises to do that. Would you disagree?
I mean, it actually depends because, like, I know, like, Adam is, like, similar to, like, modern humans, but I'm not really sure.
Right. Well, yeah, depending on what you believe is God, sure. But, and don't get me wrong, I think it absolutely disproves Adam and Eve as an explanation behind the diversity of life. I think it sort of excludes them. I would absolutely agree with you on that. But I'm talking more of a almost deistic God, one that started the process and then just buggered off somewhere else, just doesn't really care about it after that. Do you think that evolution would disprove that God?
Night, Reid.
Good night,
Yeah,
Reid.
the literal Adam and Eve, not the literal Adam and Eve. You mean, not the metaphorical one?
Like mitochondrial Eve kind of thing that we refer to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's always get outs for these things, isn't there?
Yeah,
Know
but that's what I'm talking about, the biblical Adam and Eve, the story
literal, the literal Adam and Eve. That's what I mean when I say that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I gotcha. Because when you talk about literal in the Bible, it's like, well, Simon's like, what do you mean by literal?
Well, Earth created in 6 days. The heavens and the earth created in 6 days. That's literally true, right? Some Christians believe that.
Yeah. So I think it does disprove sort of the biblical God. If for the biblical God to exist, that the Bible has to be taken literally, that it has to have run like. I think it disproves that God, but I'm not sure it disproves any concept of a God. If someone proposes a God that simply came down, did the universe, did evolution, created the mechanisms behind it, and then left it run like a fridge kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it disproves that. However, it does cast doubt on it. I wouldn't go that far, I guess.
Right. I don't know if you saw my debate the other day, Mark, with
I didn't know.
Ultimated Christian.
No, give me a link. Give me a link. That guy is the funniest thing. Okay. I shouldn't make fun of him. I really shouldn't. But
it's hard not to. I managed not to in the debate just because I thought, right, I'm not gonna get baited into just taking the piss here.
Did he chase you for ages on Discord as well? Like just hassle you and hassle you and hassle you?
No, he didn't at all.
Oh, okay.
We just met in a chat, and then he went, "Oh, I'd like to debate you." So I just went, "Yeah, all right." But no, my point really I was about to make was, look about falsifiability, right? Which somebody said in the chat here. So I mean, if we're talking about a deist version of God and it's unfalsifiable, then then obviously if you say that that's the God you mean, obviously it's unfalsifiable. You can't be an atheist in the sense of a strong atheist to a proposition which you can't prove to be false or has no way to be proved false. This was the point I was making, right? So when I say I'm an atheist, I'm only an atheist, right, to propositions which include a definition of God which is at least falsifiable, right? Because then I can say it's false. The proposition God exists is false, and that makes me an atheist, a strong atheist I'm talking about here, right? So, that's a distinction I like to make. Other than that, if it's unfalsifiable, of course I'm an agnostic, right? Because I can't prove it to be false.
Right.
But
definition. You only consider falsifiable things to be kind of valid to consideration because there's no way to either... there's way to prove them, but there's no way to disprove them.
Sure, I think something's got to be logically possible. In order for it to be logically possible, it's got to be meaningful, and therefore, if it's meaningful, it's capable of being false.
I guess then, if that's the case, then my problem is with the word disprove, I guess. Then. So I would agree that evolution may invalidate the concept of a God to an unfalsifiable proposition. Perhaps I would use that instead.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of argument against deism is more of one of parsimony than it is of anything else. It's just that explanation is going to be less parsimonious than a naturalistic explanation, you know.
We lost the amazing atheist. I'm gonna send love to them. It seems that evolution disproves this version of atheism. Yeah, I would love to know why, but it was just great having him on, and so we're sending love. He's back.
He's back.
So good, amazing atheist. Welcome back. I also wanted to know. So you said that evolution made you an atheist.
Yep, that's true.
That's true. Hey, and so would you be able to tell us a little bit about, I don't know, your
deconversion?
Your deconversion.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I just didn't really believe that, like, God would have, like, created us if we came from, like, biology and, like, animals and all of that. So, like, that's why I kind of left religion.
I'm
You
with
were
you.
a mainline Christian, a Protestant, Catholic. What was your background?
I was actually kind of like a polytheistic religion, like Hinduism. So.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so obviously that had Krishna as the or was it Shiva as the creator destroyer? I'm sorry, I don't know that much about.
Oh no, you're good. Yeah, it's Shiva probably.
Shiva as the creator. Kind of
one of them, any of them.
And how old were you when you sort of deconverted from Hinduism?
I would say about like 22.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that evolution does sort of cast doubt on. I mean, I wouldn't say discredit, but does cast doubt. It's sort of like, well, why would a God need all of these
right
mechanisms that fail and sort of you have problems with them? There's mutations that cause cancer. Just all of these weird mechanisms that just seem to have no point to a creator deity. So I think it does suggest it, but no, I get where you're coming from. It is something that creationists, especially evangelical creationists, they hate that it's taught because it does raise questions about how these mechanisms came about, and sort of a God creating certain individuals to fail and certain individuals. It just doesn't seem like something that is very plausible to me anyway.
Right, yep.
Anything that has a reflection in reality should actually be respected through reality. So anyone that can claim something has happened through a God into reality should have made an indication, and we just don't see it.
Well, it's funny because just to go back to the debate, Kent says a lot, and I knew he'd say this, is I don't see a X come from Y, right? I don't see a bacteria and amoeba giving birth to a rat kind of thing. So the problem here is the hypocritical stance, and I think I brought it up in the debate, that we don't see a God create anything either. If your standard is having to see it in front of you to believe it, then why do you believe in a God? Because I've never seen anything created in front of me. Yeah. Nobody's ever seen anything created in front of them. Where is this creation going on that you have seen to make you believe in a God? And obviously, yeah,
that's where he just pivots to, oh well, I admit mine is a religion. You won't admit that yours is a religion, and I'm not asking mine to be taught in the public schools. You should get a private school to teach evolution, and people that want to go can pay to go.
And yet he's still selling his DVD that should be given out to all the school children. Lies in the textbook.
That's what he says, yeah.
Yeah, he falls back on his secular reasoning is the Bible is true because God says it's true, and God is real because the Bible says is true. And that's just the secular reasoning. Each one represents the truth of the other, and that's where his cognitive dissonance is. He cannot ever break that loop.
Well,
the Bible has to be true because it's God's word. It's God's word because it says it's God's word.
He can believe that, but when he starts stating things as fact which are not evidently true, i.e. having evidence to back them up, then we've got a problem. And when he starts to advocate his creationism as science, when it's clearly not, and advocates evolution as religion, which it is clearly not, then we've got a problem. Because it would be like saying that medicine is sort of, just a religion kind of thing. Well, you can say that, and you can say, hey, doctors just follow this medicine religion, and they just bow down to medicine. But it's not a religion. I don't know.
I don't know. Ever seen a chemo drug kill a cancer cell? That's a faith-based belief.
You can. There's clips of it on YouTube under a microscope.
I do think that there's a very fine line between cognitive dissonance and just bias, mental bias, right?
Yeah.
And especially when somebody is a motivated reasoner, which we all are, let's face it, right? I think that's a pretty much a universal. But I do think that it's really, it's very difficult to say what somebody's intention is under those circumstances. And I know everybody, Kent is a very obvious example where there are so many things lined up on that side of, yes, he's a motivated reasoner because he's got financial considerations, which are huge. It would bankrupt him to change his mind now. Right. So he's not going to change his mind, whatever happens. Okay. But on top of that, right, he's been doing this, for such a long time. Obviously, like many lifelong atheists, they're not going to be convinced. It's just not going to happen, right? Barring something like personal revelation, it's not going to happen. And that's not going to happen to a theist. There's going to be there is no chance of personal revelation under those circumstances. So again, as long as you have this motivation behind not accepting what it is, I think you can genuinely hold this position of cognitive dissonance, or it's not cognitive dissonance. You can generally hold conflicting ideas in your head and not see that they're conflicting.
And however, if you disagree with Simos, Beamsy, Mark, James, or I, we're going to be open for, I would say, if no one joins, 15 more minutes. But if someone, a creationist joins, we'll give you 20 to 30 minutes to
15 more feet.
That's right. So come one, come all, we are talking what's the best evidence for biological evolution. I will say, sending love to the amazing atheist. I guess there are. I like to think that all atheists are amazing. So, that's a fine screen name.
He was an atheist and he was amazing. That's all that
he
counts.
was amazing.
Exactly what it said on the
Your Honor, there was no
amazing.
trademark litigation. I don't know what you're talking about. And so I will say, though, it is a little odd that evolution is what made you an atheist. I will just say that evolution is not what makes me an atheist. Being a skeptic is what makes me an atheist. And my skepticism has led me to not believing in a God. I believe in evolution because it is a fact. And so I generally like to believe in facts. It gives me an advantage in life.
I believed in evolution when I was still a theist.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think, I hate to really focus on American Christians because unfortunately they've sold their shtick around the world. But this brand of 6,000-year-old creationism is borderline, if not equivalent, of flat eartherism, and they can't comprehend. What they do is they hear that and they go, those silly atheists, they always just insult us. And so I'm just used to being insulted. And it's like, no, dude, like, you are in a cult. We're trying to prevent your lingerings from getting into our education system from, I mean, I don't want to rag on our kids as it is right now, but let's just say their testing scores, we don't want them to go down as it is. So please, let's try to do the opposite and get our STEM education up, shall we?
Actually, something I was about to say with Simos and talking about that cognitive dissonance and stuff, you're absolutely right. And what I heard that in relation to was climate change and the, oil
Good
companies.
example.
Right. It's very, and I think the saying went something like this, and it was very hard to convince somebody of the truth when their livelihood depends on it not being true.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I don't hold that to be necessarily deceptive. That's the key point I wanted to make.
Yeah.
Right? The cognitive dissonance is when you realize that there are two conflicting ideas or beliefs that you hold to both to be true, right? Or contradictory ideas, shall we say, right? And I think that situation, you can still hold contradictory ideas and just not realize that they're contradictory, right? And that's the situation that I think a lot of scientists in particular hold, because they have this idea, like Stephen Gould said, of non-overlapping magisteria, right? So they can separate their faith, right, or the God world, the magisterial world, from the scientific world, and it becomes very easy to separate the two and not see that they in some ways they have to overlap. I mean, as a materialist or a naturalist, I should say, I would say that they must overlap. Okay, and that maybe that's just that's my bias, right? Well, it certainly is one of my biases.
Yeah,
I think there's.
I mean, they do polling every so often. They'll say like, oh, like so X number of people think the world is 6,000 years old. I think that may be true. So I think a lot of these people, if you just ask them, oh, hey, do you think the biblical account of creation is true? And they say yes. Okay. When did dinosaurs live? Oh, they lived millions of years ago. And they don't realize that those two are incomplete.
Well, that's another dodgy area to go into as well.
Someone's got to be the poster child for that.
Well, like I was saying about James Ussher, he's the one that says that he can date the beginning of the earth because of the genealogy of Jesus.
He was one of the first ones who did it, the most famous.
Yeah. Okay, but that's a pretty loose way. If you don't take, if you think that the Bible has a lot of metaphor, then you don't need to think necessarily that genealogy is complete.
But then as soon as you study dendrochronology or paleodendrochronology, that just blows that out of the water.
The literal version of it, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. No, not literally. The dendrochronology and paleodendrochronology are recognized sciences, and we can date back up to 25,000 years. So
yeah, agreed.
Right,
but if you don't think that is a full and
hyper literally,
if you don't think that is a full and complete genealogy of Jesus back to Adam, right, then there could easily be space for 50,000 years, 100,000 years,
amazing.
Millions of years, or as the Catholic Church thinks, billions.
Whereas I'm probably the only one here that actually has weird beliefs, because I'm still a pagan, but I'm also a naturalist, because there are no overbearing gods or anything within the Celtic ideas.
Can I say, it's funny you say that. I love all of my theists, whatever, brothers and sisters. But amazing. Welcome back. It is great to have you on. You said that you are an atheist because of evolution. Can I ask, is evolution then the linchpin for your, I want to say, your theism? Or should I say, Are you a skeptic? How about that's a better question? Are you a skeptic?
What's your definition of a skeptic?
My definition of a skeptic is someone who does not believe in something until they have evidence to believe in it.
Yeah, that would be me.
Okay.
I had a question for Beamsy. So you say that you're in a religion. Does the religion have any gods in it at all? Like you said,
No,
it
that's
doesn't
what I
have...
set out. There are no overbearing deities within Celtic. It's more of an aspect of closer to ancestor worship and spirituality. It's the idea of where the basic ideas of thoughts come from. But there's no aspect like you could expect with the Gaia principle or anything like there is Yahweh to pray up to. There's no aspects of that. No one's listening.
No, I get that. But are the ancestors considered somehow influencing current events in some way?
No, there's no influence through the spiritual aspect. The only influence is we have something called a spark of the divine. That's what starts the principle of where our thoughts and everything's thoughts come from. But that has no bearing on within reality.
So it's more like spirituality than a religion.
Closer, yes. It's closer to that.
Okay. So technically you are an atheist because you don't believe in a god.
It is classified as theism, so it's in a grey area.
Come join us. The water's fine.
I want to know why. Because if you don't have any, because don't forget, you don't have to have a omni-god or a maximally powerful god in order for it to be considered a god. Like the Greek gods were very, very sort of human-like. They were just in a sort of spiritual realm of Mount Olympus, that it was kind of in a removed realm. You don't have to have sort of the classical god traits in order for it to be a god. So why would you not consider your ancestors to be the gods of your what you're calling a religion right now?
It's more learn from their mistakes so you live long enough to make it yourself would be a better way of learning from your ancestors. Okay. And that's...
Yeah, well, that's more philosophical, sure. That's more of a philosophy than
Celtics... If you take away the blood sacrifices, the worshipping of the sun and the moon, and a lot of the other things that have been abandoned over time, it's more of a philosophical and spiritual way of having things than some of the older religions.
Would you agree that you're either believe in a god or do not believe in a god?
Well, the concept of God is another thing that's a big question. It's an ongoing discussion with a few people that's trying to establish where the idea lies. That's why you can refer to things as God with a big G or God with a little g. This is a long conversation if you want to have it later, but I don't want to...
No. Well, I just want to point out that is a true dichotomy. You either believe in a god or do not believe in a god. Even if you don't know whether there's a god, then you do not believe in a god. You either have that belief or you do not have that belief. That's a true dichotomy. So I'm wondering how you get around that true dichotomy. And it doesn't matter what god. A god can be any god at all whatsoever. A god spirit, a ancestor god, a god in the form of a spiritual moon or sun, anything that you would define a god. You either do believe in a god or you do not believe in a god. And what God is doesn't matter. It can be your definition, if you like.
It's best described as, like I said, it's the spark of the divine would be the best way of describing it in English.
Is that a god?
Kind of. It's like I said, it's a complex thought that I'll have to try and translate from my head into English, which is not an easy thing to do.
Well, I mean, it's either a god or not a god. Even if you don't know, that's a fine
It's
answer.
a representation outside of our own existence, but it has no bearing on our existence other than the start of it.
Is a representation outside of our existence a god?
Possibly. That's why I said it's an ongoing discussion that I haven't actually got a definitive answer to.
Okay.
It's why I'm still a pagan.
So you don't know if it's a god or not.
Mm.
Is that a yes?
Yes, I do not know.
Okay.
To answer Ox, the aspect of God with the big G is something that exists outside of our experience and is beyond our understanding and has no impact on reality or natural existence. It exists exclusively in the supernatural, whereas in God with the little g is something that we have actually expressed it with our little minds and given it a label.
I don't think that would
say
be my definition.
No, I might disagree with that as well.
I just want to give a
It's a
PSA
simplified version, but yeah.
to everyone out there that you should, at least with your partner, be searching for the G spot, whether it is capital or lowercase. And I will say that, ladies and gents, it's been fun tonight, but unless someone joins us in 5 minutes, we are going to head into outros. So this is your last chance. If you disagree with us, doesn't matter if you're atheist, theist, liberal, conservative, we will give you time to shine. You just gotta hit that link. Exactly. But
I was actually seeing bubbles earlier. I was hoping he'd come in because that would get real spicy real fast.
Oh, that
but,
would.
I think Bird timed him out a few times and he left. So
he got all
try not to time people out just for having a disagreement in ideologies. One of the things I'd quickly say is that the whole question of defining atheism versus theism is a very tricky one, because of course it just depends on how you're going to define the word God at all, right?
It's where
and like I said in my debate, if you define God as somebody who's 5'8", plays guitar, has long hair, well kept body, pretty fit, and it's genuinely a really nice guy called Simos, then of course I believe in God.
I was about to ask if you're yourself.
If you don't, I had another adjective which I sluck in there before, but I won't do it because this is Amy's. But nonetheless, if you can define it that way, can of Coke? Yeah, I believe there are cans of Coke. God is the universe, Spinozan God. Yeah, I believe I believe the universe exists. So if that's what you're calling God, then I guess I'm a theist, right? But I represent myself as being a strong atheist simply because I believe there are no gods, right? But then that still depends on the definition that we're going to give God. And of course, when I think that, I'm thinking of gods which have agency, supernatural powers, timeless, a lot of classical theism ideas involved.
Attached to it. Yeah.
So you see what I mean? So again, there's a whole range there. I'm a theist, or I'm an agnostic, or I'm an atheist, depending on how you want to define this word God.
Well,
and that's the way
true.
I shift the burden. Anyway.
That's true, but it really, when you say, do you believe in a God, it's any God that you care to define, right? So if you want to define a God as Simos is obviously, massive and plays guitar, etc., all of these things, and say then that makes me a theist, then I wouldn't have an objection to that if that's what
exactly.
you define yourself as.
Or the Spinozan God, which is the point a lot of atheists have a problem with.
Right. And they miss, the creationists miss it as well. They kind of like, but Einstein was he liked the God of Spinoza, which is simply physics. I agree with this, Simos. I think it does all come down to definition. And even when I say atheist, we do have massive disagreements on what atheist actually means, whether it is just a lack of belief in God, or whether it is a claim that God does not exist. And as I've spent a bit of time on Amy, I'm kind of leaning more towards the hard atheist position. I'm getting a bit hard in my old age.
Well, I just wanted to point out, in that case, Mark, let me convince you that the hard position is the best position, which is to say that, of course, as a consequence of being a strong atheist, I'm also somebody who lacks belief that God
Down,
exists.
Amy.
Well, I was just going to say, becoming a hard atheist may be a consequence of it just becoming later at night. And, as it gets...
Just being around you, Amy, makes me a hard atheist.
Oh, right.
I'm usually a harder atheist in the morning. I got to say that. I usually.
Yes, okay, you know what? And sometimes with a little testosterone, you become a hard atheist in the morning. These are problems we deal with.
Now we know why, though, you get hard in the morning, because God was giving you some touches in the middle of the night.
God was
Well,
touching
I'm
you.
kind of leaning towards that, like a mind, and this is mostly from talking with Amy, who just makes some amazing.
I like where you're going with this.
Stuff. Well, that you can't have, like, where is a mind existing without a brain?
Yeah.
How is that actually coming about? And so, we don't have any evidence, and a lot of evidence suggests otherwise, that a mind cannot exist without a brain. And
we have no examples, yeah.
Well, it's not only that
there's no inductive argument that we can draw from the universe to say that God has the property of a mind.
Right,
That's how
right.
I tend to put it.
Evidence suggests that things like neurons and neural pathways and all of these things are necessary in order to produce a mind. And I think as we go onwards, we find out more about the brain and how that creates consciousness. I think we will have a lot more evidence that a mind can't exist without a brain.
Mm.
And sending so much love because Ian sent
so much,
$5 super sticker.
$5
on my drop. And I will say, I feel like Mark got a lot of mic drops tonight. It was great to have the skeptic crew on because it feels like the tides are turning. Once again, it just seems like the pews are emptying, as James says, and that the internet, it's just really hard to stay committed to a really rigid, dogmatic, superstitious belief system.
Look, and I'll just take, creationists accepting evolution because there is so much evidence.
That would be a big step in the right direction.
A really positive step forward. And the fact that we've got to use these models of evolution in order to, as you mentioned earlier, I think, Amy, with viruses and how we address them, we've got to have an understanding of how they developed over time. It's dangerous to sort of go, well, for my religious belief, I'm going to ignore these scientific facts when we kind of need the science in order to be able to address the problems that we're facing.
And of course, the irony of them arguing against science when they're on the internet is just amazing for me. I think that's one of the biggest ironies going, and I laugh at it every day when I hear someone come on and go, "Yeah, but you have scientism, mate." And I go, "Hang on a minute, you are talking to me literally on the products of modern science, right?"
Using science.
Yeah, the only thing funnier is sort of flat earthers arguing over mobile connections that have to use towers and repeaters because of sight lines. You're right. It's delicious.
I always point at you, Mark, and say, "Look, does Mark look like he's holding on to his dear life?"
Well, you know what? I do not have any hair to show that it's upside down. Right? So,
it's a good point.
I shave off my head so they don't see it, rising above my head.
See, you have that just to not prove that the Earth is secretly flat.
Oh dear! Oh, we have a laugh, though, don't we?
And what I will say is that we are going to move into outros. Everyone will be able to say their final word. But I think before we do that, and I was waiting, but I'm going to send it in chat. I'm going to send this. I'm going to do the identity politics of the story. which was at the very end last stream. We had a gentleman join us as we were basically doing the credits. And I think James tried quickly to ban him. I tried not being able to show his statement, and our combinedness ended up showing his statement and flashing it. But what ended up happening is I argued with this gentleman for probably, James can attest, probably an hour or more. We just sat there,
yeah. Roughly
just going back and forth because I couldn't help myself. And after a while, I can't. I don't know if I should say I can't believe it, or I mean, because it's happened before. Is that
what did he say? I gotta agree with X Music.
I will say,
outline. Just give us a silhouette.
You could not have set me up better. Thank you. So I'm just going to go this in chat. He basically just said something to a tune that, you know, you're never going to be a woman or something, and trying to take pot shots, which I have wanted to counter that, which we are going to do in this episode. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Nonetheless, at the end of fighting and arguing with this, who I believe gentleman, James, we won him over. Did we not win him over? And he kind of was like, you know what? I kind of understand your side. And you did.
He's like, have a good weekend or whatever.
He did. Yeah. He told us to have a good weekend. And you could never imagine that at the beginning of what just happened.
Right.
And so sending love out there into the universe. Sending love into the universe when you have thick skin, when you take it and just kind of absorb it. Because what I really did was I kept on attacking religion, ladies and gentlemen. You ask, how did I win this gentleman over? And was it by trying to explain in like this empathetic way? Not really at all. It was attacking him consistently about religion over. Now,
but that's the basis for their belief. That's the foundation.
You would say, and yes, and somehow we kind of give yourself a break. Somehow we found some sort of middle ground where he was like, you know what, I might not completely understand you, but I respect you. And so sending out there into the universe, and with that we're moving into outros. We're going to bring ourselves back on topic, land the plane. I think Mark is actually going to end up being our headliner tonight because he was our special guest host, but we are moving into our outros because we have been midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution. Sending love. Woo-hoo! Amazing Atheist, you were the most recent one to join us, which means you are going to be starting us off on our outros. That's right. Welcome. Glad to have you. Don't mind my little bit of Socraticness. I just can't help it. We're actually glad to have you. And what are your... That's right. What do you have got going on, if you want to share, and what are your final thoughts about the topic on what's the best evidence for biological evolution?
Yeah, definitely. Like, when it comes to like biological evolution, like it kind of like disproves God because like not everybody looks like Adam and Eve. And like we don't even know if they existed or not.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
very
you
much.
so much. You did a
Amazing
wonderful job.
atheist. Yes. It was lovely having you on.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard to our Midnight Ranting. And if you want, stick
Sounds
around for
under the
the
weather.
after show in Discord. And, all right. We're going to head right down the list. Sending love. Beamsy. We are Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution, what you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
I think the biggest discussion would be which is the best evidence, because there are just so many.
Indeed.
It's why they have to attack so many fields of science and why they have to attack the scientific method. There's no way that they could prove their point exists within reality without discrediting reality.
Yeah. And it's pretty silly when they try to do so. But Beamsy, thank you so very much. I will continue to shill that you should all go to Aunt Hovind. It's just lovely to have you here.
Oh, we lost
I
John
will
Van.
finally finish the dealing with that 60 hours worth of footage I've got for it.
Yes. And you know what? I will say, you said that I'm almost scared. You said that video was not it's not have a I'm trying to think what the copyright, because I have it right here. It's called Dr. Hovind is not prepared for that.
It's actually no, it's copyright free, and it was actually someone took Kent Hovind's voice and made a song out of it.
All right, this is going to be your
Call it,
actual
Mark.
your actual outro.
I said
It would be better for Mark's intro.
What was he gonna save it? Were you saving?
It actually summons up his debate with
does.
Kent quite well.
Can you hear it?
Nope.
Barely.
No, if it's barely, then it's like a USB. I have to not share sound once to then share sound.
Housekeeping genes. I'm not prepared for that. The evolution theory. I'm not prepared for that. We have inserted DNA code from an ERV. I'm not prepared for that. Reid.
Okay.
And this is the thing. Ken Hovind has been presented with ERVs before.
Yeah. He's been presented it. Yeah.
So many times, and then he runs away from it. This debate with you.
But thank you so much, BMC, for sharing that with us and for being on board.
So I feel kind of sorry for Donnie, because when he brought it, he's like, you got a book, Donnie, and he's trying to be the moderator. And like, you can't go, yeah, I've got a book and that's definitely false. Like, you can't jump in or anything. I don't know why he did it, but whatever.
Donnie wrote a book on that. It's all nonsense. Keep praising God.
Woo-hoo. But speaking about someone not filled with nonsense, Simos Funk, what is up? We have been Midnight Ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evolution, what you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for letting me be here, Amy and James. Obviously, it's great to be here again.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you, Mark, as well, for that very interesting debate and follow-up debate as well with whoever A is. I thought that was also very good. So, yeah, I don't know whether I've got anything to contribute in the way of something amazing here. The history of how evolution came to be the predominant theory in biology, and as Dostoevsky says, nothing in biology makes sense except through the light of evolution. How that came to happen is itself a fascinating story, let alone the actual evidence for evolution, etc. So I think, there's so much. It's such a rich territory, and so many lessons can be learned around this one particular topic, that to keep yourself ignorant from it, I think, is the height of stupidity, as far as I'm concerned. And if people wish to do that in order to cling on to Iron Age belief systems, then I think that says more about them than it says about evolution. Although, the Darwin Award can go to some people for just that. Okay, so that's basically my outro. I'd just like to shill my Formula One channel, which is a motor racing channel, and I've put the link in the chat. If you could just post that for me, Amy, because I don't.
Absolutely.
I seem not to have. I don't know how this happened, but I seem not to have mods on your channel. I can't believe it myself.
I wouldn't trust him. Yeah, anything could happen.
Anything.
Well,
okay, so thank you so much as well.
I will say, if you post in chat a fairy/unicorn, may be able to grant that.
Oh, okay, all right. I'm working on it right now then.
But you can't post the link to have your wish granted, because then it doesn't post it.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on a second.
But I will load that up while. Oh, there you go. And so.
Did you modded him up?
No, I didn't do anything. I stand by the fact that unicorns/fairies who have as much they hate this every time. They're like, oh, tip your fedora even more. But whatever. Oh my. Okay. I hope you know, Sivos, that I have a saying, and that is flattery gets you everywhere.
I'm very good at that, I hope.
But yes, I am still going to post it into chat and then show it up on screen. And look, I'm showing it from Twitch. Shout out to the Twitch sphere out there. Sending love, Simos. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. That channel name is Fabio and Funk. I can post that at least.
Thank you, Simon.
Thank you, James. Appreciate
Great
that.
to have you back. Yep.
And all right, with that, we are going to. We had a trinity tonight, and so we are going to hand the keys to James.
Look, Mum, I'm on Amy's channel.
Oh.
Get this fucker off the screen.
I've forgotten about that one.
Sending love to Peter, who was on the fantastic rant off stream that I did the other fortnight. But James, we have been midnight ranting on what's the best evidence for biological evidence. Had some fun.
A lot of fun.
What you got going on, and what are your final thoughts?
I have a debate coming up with Ken Hovind. Let me pull up the calendar real quick. Probably going to be on the 19th. That's the plan anyway. Stay tuned for that. But tonight, what a debate. What a great job Mark did. It was a really good debate. I had a lot of fun watching it and talking with you guys about it. Good discussions on here. Love everybody. And have a great night. We'll be back in a day or so.
Woohoo! Thank you so very much, James. And all right, we are going to bring up what I would say is our headliner. I am going to do my
Master Debater.
Master Debater. I am going to do my opening statement as my closing statement, but it's going to be short. So we are going to give the most amount of time to our special guest host.
Most bestest time.
Most bestest. The Rickus Rick. We are bringing on Mark Reid. It was fantastic having you for this. The full 15 of Mark. What is the best evidence for biological evolution? It was great having you. I think you did fantastic during the debate. What do you have going on? And of course, what are your final thoughts on the topic?
Yeah, I still like. I get transitional fossils as strong evidence, and I would agree. I think that I mean, the strongest evidence is all the converging lines of evidence, as Bree pointed out earlier. It isn't just one, but I was under constraints in order to pick one as the strongest, and I still would stand by genetic evidence as being the strongest. Just ERVs and the chromosome 2 fusion are so strong. You would really have to argue that a god tricked you into thinking that evolution happened, and I think that is just a really poor argument for anything, really. But yeah, I had a blast in the debate, and of course, always a blast on Amy's channels. Do like and subscribe. Ring the notification bell so when these things come up, you can come on. I want to thank Bree, Simos, Luca, Anthony. It was great to have a theist on here, and one that did challenge you and ask some questions. And we might not have agreed. There's probably things I can brush up on. I do appreciate that he said, "Hey, I'm not a biologist or a geneticist," and yeah, I'm not either, mate. But you did come on. You had some really good questions. Hopefully, I answered them correctly. If not, let me know. I would like to know if I've gotten anything wrong. And thanks to Simos for giving me, pulling me up on something that I did say, which is great feedback. I'm always open to feedback because that's the only way you can sort of get better and understand more. And thanks to Midnight Sparkle for being on. Beansy, always a pleasure. And the alleged amazing atheist too. Thanks for coming on.
See, I think I finally get it, Mark. It's that there's the amazing atheist, just like the Spider-Man, but then there's amazing atheist. It's all in that the. It's all in that the.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they realize the name's taken already. Maybe they do. Maybe it's a
code as John Vance.
Okay, well, yeah, well, whatever. Thank you so much, and of course, thank you so much, James and Amy. I really do appreciate everything you've done. You guys are even more amazing than the amazing atheist. You guys are excellent. Thank you.
We are all amazing atheists.
That's right. All amazing atheists.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk to Beansy some more about his belief system and stuff and things like that. But thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here, and I might grab some late lunch after this. Getting a bit late, but yeah, all the best. The mods, thank you so much, and thank you for being here to the audience, who is the only reason we get to do this at all, which is so much fun. I really appreciate it. Take care, and all the best to everybody.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank you so very much, Mark. And I just want to keep on saying, awesome job. He did great. One hell of a rhetoricist. James says the same thing, that it's easy to take pot shots until you're in the hot seat, and then their nonsense is just spewed all over. And I think both James and you are really good at batting him around. So nice job.
I'll do my best next time.
About to be in the hot seat again. And
yeah,
all right.
James.
I am going to. I can't help it. It's cathartic.
She works hard on them.
And really, you hard for the. Okay. Much shorter than anything, and much less elegant. And I want to preamble my preamble. Whatever. Only 14 feet. But yes, what is the best evidence for biological evolution? Well, medicine, anatomy, the fossil record, genetics. Take a pick. Our genes are a blueprint to how we are related to every other creature on Earth. It's how we know we share so much in common with other apes. But by also studying their anatomy and the similarities that we share. Along with the wealth of fossils we have lining our museums. Funny enough, simpler creatures appear in the oldest layers of rock, and more complex ones appear on the newer ones. What we see is a gradient of life. Though, if you really want to see evolution in action, just look at modern medicine, because COVID was a mutation. And many people were naturally selected out of existence. So when it comes to what's the best evidence for biological evolution, well, we see evolution happening every day. Populations of genes mutate, and the environment naturally selects them. That's it. Evolution is a fact and will continue to be so for as long as life exists. Thank you. In fact, I would like to thank Mark Reid and my co-host James W. and our entire panel. We got Simos and Beavesy hanging out to the end with the captainship with us, and I want to thank all of you out there. It has been a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks for Mark Reid posting a link for my debate. Thanks, guys.
Oh, in fact, I'm skipping my other Shticky McShipping. I want to thank you all for coming to this episode of Midnight Ranting.
I want to thank you all for coming.
Oh my, that's
to this episode of Midnight Ranting.
If you had permission. What's the best evidence for biological evolution? Where tonight we threw a debate after party. Woo!
Victory celebration.
From the back and forth of Kent Hovind, 15 feet, versus...
Not prepared for that.
You our very own Mark Reid. Woohoo! Over at the channel, standing for truth on the topic of course, what's the best evidence for biological evolution?
Got your hands full there, Kent.
A biologically good time. Oh my. And
that part is in rather a sus position.
That's right, babe. It's a little bit turned upside down and a little bit stretched over. But you can also find that debate in the description below. I do want to thank my co-host, James W., along with our special guest host, Mark Reid, along with our guests, ding, Anthony, Luca, Midnight, Bree, Simos, Beamsy, and Amazing
John Vance.
Can I just say one more irony fact, if I may?
Yes, you can.
Thank you so much. Christians go forth and multiply, of course, and they have large families. I don't know why they're so keen to make themselves transitional fossils. Thank you very much.
You can't prove they had any kids.
That's right. And then send them to public school, get them a good college education, and hopefully they'll have a good access to information technology, so they'll be decent human beings and atheists.
That's the hope.
Or agnostic, non-believer, skeptics. Insert your label that isn't a fundamentalist, Christian, whatever the hell.
Fundamentalist.
Oh, I like a bit of
Keep
fun.
them away from
we like
GAL.
Exactly. But we also want to send love to all the people in chat, our awesome mods who make this stream so great. Boom, boom, boom. And of course, lovely viewers like you who make this channel even possible. If you enjoy the show, please don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe. Woohoo! Because then you gain access to that bell icon, which when set to all, will send you reminders to see our premieres or join our live streams. Woo! Or hey, why not leave a comment once the video's done? After the show, we will be heading to the Skeptic of Ranting Discord server, the link of which is in the description below, along with all of our fantastic channel members. Lastly, if you'd like to help us make even more content, we offer some perks for our supporters by checking out our Patreon at patreon.com/Amy Newman. I am Amy Newman, and we will see you all on the next episode of Skeptic Ball Z. Oh my. Listen, it's not a Kent Hovind debate unless you are talking about some other animal's genitals.
That is a vivid image, I'll give you that. Do you mean like a maypole where they have the streamers kind of thing? And they, yeah, okay.
That would be even more.
I'm gonna wipe my mind.
Forward into my mind.
And with that, we all sending you love. Hope you have a good skeptical morning, afternoon, or night.
Stay away from gods. They're not real.